Chapter 772. Yuan Weiqing suddenly realized that as long as he agreed to Vice Hall Master Zhang's conditions, his life would change drastically. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it would be a world of difference. However, was he really going to do that? Was he really going to listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang's suggestion and kill Hall Master Shui? LV Hushan saw Yuan Weiqing lowering his head and keeping silent. His expression was constantly changing. He could not help but sneer in his heart, but his face was still full of smiles. Yuan Weiqing, actually, I didn't intend to tell you these words, but seeing you like this, I really can't bear not to say it. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused before continuing. Of course, it's up to you to do what you want, so I won't be participating. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing came to his senses. LV Hushan was still standing beside him. Yuan Weiqing pondered in his heart. If he did not do this, would LV Hushan do it? LV Hushan was right. He was now crippled, but LV Hushan was fine? Even if the two of them left the secret Thunder sect in the South County, the rest of his life would definitely not be easy. However, LV Hushan seemed to be fine. LV Hushan's martial arts were still there. Even if he could no longer be a protector, no matter where he went, as long as he had martial arts, he would definitely not do badly. In that case, wouldn't LV Hushan definitely not do it? No. Yuan Weiqing frowned and thought in his heart. How could he make LV Hushan do it? As long as LV Hushan did it, he could sit back and enjoy the fruits of his labor. Perhaps he would only get half of the benefits or even less. So what? At least he would not have to worry about his life in the future. However, how could he make LV Hushan do it? Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing raised his head and looked at LV Hushan. He asked with a smile, LV Hushan, are you not tempted by those precious elixirs and martial arts manuals? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered in his heart, but he still maintained a smile on his face. Yuan Weiqing, how could I not be tempted? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused before continuing. However, compared to you, it doesn't matter whether I have those things or not. Yuan Weiqing, you, on the other hand, need those things more than I do. With those things, your future will be better, but without those things, your life won't be easy. So, for the sake of our friendship, I've decided to give this opportunity to you. I hope you won't miss this opportunity. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, although I also want to seize this opportunity, you also know that practicing martial arts is really a headache for me. Just like what Vice Hall leader Zhang said, I really don't want to practice in such a secret room for many years. LV Hushan, you also know that I have a son. My son is still young. How can I leave him to cultivate in the secret chamber alone? So after thinking for a long time, I decided to give up this opportunity. LV Hushan, if you are willing, you can do it. I will give this opportunity to you. What do you think? LV Hushan shook his head and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, I have already said that with my current martial arts, even if I don't practice martial arts anymore, although I can't reach the status of the one-armed Saber King, my life will definitely not be bad. Yuan Weiqing, compared to me, you are too far away. Once you lose this opportunity, I can guarantee you that your life will be as miserable as it can be. Yuan Weiqing, are you willing to live such a life? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, how can that be? I have the gold coins that Vice Hall leader Zhang gave me. As long as I use these gold coins to do a small business, I will naturally live a good life. Lu Hushan smiled and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, maybe your life will be okay, but don't forget, once you lose your martial arts, the head of the bandits, Boss Lu, will definitely not let you off. Yuan Weiqing, I heard from my disciples that they seemed to have seen the bandit leader Boss Lu near the Tanlei sect in the South County. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, why do you think the bandit leader Boss Lu would appear near the Tanlei sect in the South County? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. Really? Has anyone really seen the bandit leader boss Lu? Lu Hushan nodded. Why would I lie to you? At that time, when my disciples told me about this matter, I didn't take it seriously. At that time, our martial arts were still there. Even if the bandit leader boss Lu appeared near us, what could he do to us? That's why I never told you about this matter. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused before continuing. However, the situation is different now. You have lost your martial arts. Now, the bandit leader boss Lu is a great threat to you. That's why I said it. You should prepare early so that when the bandit leader boss Lu finds you, you won't know. That's not good. After hearing LV Hushan's words, the cold sweat on Yuan Weiqing's forehead that had just dissipated emerged again. After a while, Yuan Weiqing said in a trembling voice, "Maybe the bandit leader boss Lu has something to do near the Tanlei sect in the South County. He might not be here for us. You might be thinking too much. He's not here to cause trouble for us." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan nodded and said with a smile, "Is that so? Maybe you're right. The bandit leader boss Lu has turned over a new leaf. Maybe he's doing some small business near the Tanlei sect in the South County like you. He has long forgotten about us." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded. "That's right. How can he always remember us? Although there is a grudge between us, it has been so long. Maybe he has long forgotten about it." LV Hushan nodded. "That's right. How can he remember this for so long? Besides, it's not a big deal. We just killed his brothers and occupied his territory." Speaking of this, Lu Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said in a low voice, "I remember that we didn't return the belongings of the bandit leader, Boss Lu. It seems that the two of us split it equally. Do you still remember?" LV Hushan waved his hand. "However, don't worry. Even if we split some of his belongings, he definitely won't remember it. Maybe he has already earned more gold coins. How can he remember those belongings? Don't you think so?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing's face turned even uglier. When he defeated the bandit leader boss Lu, the harvest was really rich. He occupied the bandit leader boss Lu's territory, killed his brothers, robbed his belongings, and finally injured the bandit leader boss Lu. The bandit leader boss Lu could survive because he was knocked off the cliff by Yuan Weiqing. Therefore, he was lucky enough to escape this time. Otherwise, even he couldn't escape. LV Hushan continued with a smile. "Yuan Weiqing, the hatred between us isn't very deep. It shouldn't be a big problem. Even if the bandit leader boss Lu comes looking for us, as long as we talk it out, it shouldn't be a problem." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing forced a smile and nodded. "Yeah, there is no unsolvable hatred. As long as we apologize to him, he should forgive us." LV Hushan suddenly sighed. "Yuan Weiqing, if you were in this situation, would you forgive us?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but frown. LV Hushan continued, "Yuan Weiqing, you have to think about it this way. If the bandit leader boss Lu was us and he brought people to kill your family, then robbed your belongings and occupied your house, in the end, he even seriously injured you. If you didn't run fast enough, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to escape." At this point, LV Hushan's tone paused. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and continued, "Yuan Weiqing, if it were you, would you forgive the bandit leader boss Lu?" After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing only felt that the veins on his forehead began to bulge. He suddenly realized that the hatred between him and the bandit leader boss Lu was absolutely impossible to resolve. Just like what LV Hushan said just now, if the two sides were switched and boss LV, the bandit leader, occupied his house, killed his family, and robbed his money, was it really possible to forgive this kind of hatred? Impossible. Yuan Weiqing secretly gritted his teeth. This kind of hatred was absolutely impossible to resolve. No matter what method he used, even if he knelt down and apologized, there was absolutely no way to forgive him. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing let out a long sigh and said slowly, "LV Hushan, I know that the bandit leader boss Lu won't let me go. So, I feel that I have to leave the South County and go somewhere else. I believe that the bandit leader boss Lu will definitely not find me." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan nodded and said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, choosing to leave the South County is also a good idea. I think that the bandit leader boss Lu won't keep tracking you, right?" Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. "LV Hushan, what do you mean by this? Could it be that even if I leave the South County, the bandit leader boss Lu still won't let me go?" LV Hushan shook his head. "Who knows? Whether the bandit leader boss Lu will chase you or not depends on the hatred between you two. Is it worth it for him to chase you? Don't you think so? Yuan Weiqing, do you think that the hatred between you two is not worth it for him to chase after you?" Yuan Weiqing sighed and said slowly, "When will revenge end? I believe that as long as I leave the South County, the bandit leader boss Lu will definitely not chase after me again." At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer him. "LV Hushan, on the other hand, if I leave the South County, you will be the only one left here. What if the bandit leader boss Lu sees that you are the only one left, will he think of a way to deal with you?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan waved his hand and suddenly sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, don't worry about me. Even if the bandit leader boss Lu comes to find trouble with me, do you think that with his martial arts, he can be my match?" At this point, LV Hushan paused and snorted coldly before continuing, "If the bandit leader boss Lu doesn't come to find me, I can still let him go once. If he dares to come to find me, don't blame me for being ruthless." LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, thank you for your concern. I'm fine. My martial arts are still there. How can the bandit leader boss Lu be my match? Speaking of which, you have to be more careful. Yuan Weiqing, you have to be careful. Your family is relying on you to protect them. What if the bandit leader, boss Lu, really finds you? You must hold on. Don't let him hurt your family. Do you understand?" Yuan Weiqing shook his head. "LV Hushan, I'm going to leave secretly. I believe that the bandit leader boss Lu won't be able to find me." At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words. "LV Hushan, you have to be careful. Although the bandit leader boss Lu's martial arts are not as good as yours, it's easy to dodge an open knife, but difficult to defend against a hidden arrow. The bandit leader boss Lu is a cunning character. If he comes up with a plan to deal with you, with your current martial arts, I'm afraid you won't be able to resist it." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, how is this possible? It's not like you don't know my martial arts. How can the bandit leader boss Lu be my match? Yuan Weiqing, I'm fine. What worries me the most is you. You've lost your martial arts. I'm afraid you're even worse than an ordinary person. If the bandit leader boss Lu really finds you, what will you do? Yuan Weiqing, I'm worried about you just thinking about it. Do you understand?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed in his heart. He knew that LV Hushan's worry was fake, but his worry was real. He had lost his martial arts. If the bandit leader boss Lu really couldn't find him, he really wouldn't be able to deal with him. Although the bandit leader boss Lu wasn't very tall, it was more than enough to deal with an ordinary person. Lu Hushan saw Yuan Weiqing lowering his head and not saying anything. He suddenly sighed, "Yuan Weiqing, you're thinking too much. Now, the bandit leader boss Lu is such a big threat to you, but you still don't know how to make a choice. Yuan Weiqing, think about it carefully. If you agree to Vice Hall Master Zhang, the bandit leader boss Lu's problem can be easily solved. But if you don't agree, the bandit leader boss Lu will definitely find trouble with you. At that time, what will you use to resist? Yuan Weiqing, you feel that you're very noble now, so think about it. Are you worthy of your family? Are you worthy of your son? You're worthy of everyone. The only person you're worthy of is yourself. But I believe that it won't be long before the bandit leader boss Lu comes looking for you. At that time, what will you do? Chapter 773. Yuan Weiqing sneered and had to say, "At that time, it will be because of your thoughts that it will lead to this bitter outcome. Yuan Weiqing, wake up. Don't be stubborn. Otherwise, you won't be the only one who will be hurt. Your family will be hurt as well." Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing's face turned pale. Although he knew that what LV Hushan said was true, he didn't want to be used by LV Hushan. At this point, Yuan Weiqing had already seen that LV Hushan wanted to use him to do this, but could he really do it? Yuan Weiqing didn't want to do this because once he did it, there would be no chance for him to regret. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. "LV Hushan, my arm is injured now and I can't use my martial arts. If you are willing to do as Deputy Hall Leader Zhang said, you should do it." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan frowned. "Yuan Weiqing, are you really not afraid that the bandit leader boss LV will come to settle accounts with you?" Yuan Weiqing sighed. "So what if I am afraid? I can only resign myself to fate. I think that as long as I am careful, the bandit leader boss LV won't be able to find me so easily." LV Hushan suddenly sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, do you want to hide for the rest of your life?" Yuan Weiqing shook his head. "This isn't hiding. I just want to live an ordinary life." LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and sighed. "Yuan Weiqing, I don't understand. You know what the result is, so why are you still so stubborn? Yuan Weiqing, you only need to do as Deputy Hall Leader Zhang said, and these problems will be easily solved. Is there anything wrong with this?" Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words, he continued to speak. "I understand that you're worried about Hall Master Shui and feel that you're letting him down by doing this. However, I've already told you that you have nothing to do with him. Everything you have is obtained through your own hard work. It has nothing to do with Hall Master Shui. Yuan Weiqing, if I were you, I would do it without hesitation. Because only by doing this can you live a better life in the future. Don't you understand?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hesitated for a second before shaking his head once again. "LV Hushan, I'm old. I don't want to work hard anymore. I just want to live a commoner's life. If so, why should I follow Deputy Head Zhang's order?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. "Yuan Weiqing, have you really decided?" Yuan Weiqing nodded. "I've decided." Lu Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. "Yuan Weiqing, even if you meet the bandit leader boss Lu in the future, won't you regret it?" Hearing this question, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. "No regrets." Lu Hushan suddenly sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, even if the bandit leader boss Lu snatches your son away, won't you regret it?" Hearing LV Hushan mention his son again, Yuan Weiqing was a little annoyed. He clenched his fist. "LV Hushan, I said that I won't regret it. If you want to do it, then do it. No one will stop you." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan suddenly stretched out his hand and clapped. "Yuan Weiqing, you're really good. For yourself, you don't even care about your family. I really admire you." Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused. He suddenly sneered and continued, "Yuan Weiqing, if your decision is known by your family, what will they think?" Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. "LV Hushan, this is my business. You don't have to worry about it." LV Hushan nodded. "Yuan Weiqing, I don't want to care about your business. I'm just wondering if your family will thank you or hate you when they know what you do." Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued. "I guess they will hate you because you don't care about them for yourself. For a selfish person like you, Do you think your family will still stay by your side? Yuan Weiqing, this is impossible. I can tell you for sure that your family will definitely leave you and look for someone who can protect them. At that time, your family will leave you. You will have no family anymore. You will be alone. Even if you live an ordinary life, what's the fun in that? No. Yuan Weiqing's words were almost shouted. LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. How can they leave me? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused. He took a few quick breaths and continued, What's more, we already have a son. Don't they even want me as their father? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, to be honest, since you can't protect them, then what's the use of you as their father staying? Yuan Weiqing turned his head and glared fiercely at LV Hushan. He said angrily, LV Hushan, don't say any more. I don't want to hear it any more. LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, even if you don't want to hear it, I have to say it. In any case, we are friends. How can I not remind you of some things? Yuan Weiqing, if I don't make it clear today, you might hate me in the future. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head coldly. No need, LV Hushan. Even if you don't say anything today, I won't blame you. LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, although you won't blame me, my conscience can't get over it. So, there are some things that will definitely happen. I will definitely tell you so that you won't regret it. But it will be too late. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and sneered. LV Hushan, since you want to say it, I won't stop you. However, you have already said so much. Are you done? LV Hushan shook his head. How is this possible? We just started. I haven't said the important things yet. Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, since you haven't finished, then you can continue. I am listening here. LV Hushan smiled and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, this is more like it. What I said is absolutely for your good. Maybe you don't understand now, but in the future, you will thank me. Yuan Weiqing sneered and nodded. LV Hushan, no need to say in the future. I am very grateful to you now. Please continue. LV Hushan laughed. Yuan Weiqing, since you are begging me, then I won't be polite. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing just sneered and didn't answer. LV Hushan didn't take it seriously and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, since you want to listen, let's continue the topic just now. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused and continued. Yuan Weiqing, after your family leaves, they will definitely go to other families in order to survive. At that time, your son will no longer be your son. I am afraid that he will become someone else's son. At that time, when you see your son in someone else's house and become someone else's son, I wonder if you will feel good in your heart? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't bear it anymore. He suddenly waved his fist and punched towards LV Hushan. LV Hushan had already expected this move. He just took a step back slightly and stretched out his hand to block the punch. Then, he took another step forward and stretched out his other hand to grab Yuan Weiqing's throat. Seeing that LV Hushan dared to attack him, Yuan Weiqing sneered and raised his arm to block. Then, he retracted his other fist and wanted to hit again. However, before Yuan Weiqing retracted his fist, he suddenly exclaimed. It was because at the critical moment just now, he forgot that his arm was broken. When he raised his hand to block, he couldn't block LV Hushan's fist. LV Hushan actually grabbed his throat directly. Yuan Weiqing, you lost. LV Hushan grabbed Yuan Weiqing and pressed him gently. He immediately retracted his hand and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, have you forgotten? You are no longer my opponent now. Yuan Weiqing stared blankly at LV Hushan's retracted arm. Suddenly, he felt like crying. In the past, LV Hushan was definitely not his opponent. It could even be said that the difference was too big. However, just now, LV Hushan easily grabbed his throat and defeated him. Although it was because he underestimated his opponent, Yuan Weiqing finally understood that even if he didn't underestimate his opponent, he was absolutely not LV Hushan's opponent. The person who had been defeated by him in the past could now easily defeat him. Just now, although Yuan Weiqing knew that his martial arts were about to be crippled, he only knew about it. He had not really experienced the pain of losing his martial art. Now, he understood that without his martial arts, he was no longer LV Hushan's opponent. Yuan Weiqing thought of the bandit leader, Boss Lu, and suddenly felt a chill in his heart. If the bandit leader, Boss Lu, really wanted to settle the score with him, what should he do? With his current martial arts, Yuan Weiqing was sure that he was definitely not the bandit leader, Boss Lu's opponent. What should he do? Yuan Weiqing was sure that once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, found him, his whole family would probably fall into the hands of the bandit leader, Boss Lu. What should he do then? The more Yuan Weiqing thought about it, the more frightened he became. The cold sweat on his forehead also became more and more. Soon, it condensed into large beads of sweat and flowed down his forehead. Looking at Yuan Weiqing's appearance, LV Hushan sneered in his heart. He knew that his move just now had successfully suppressed Yuan Weiqing. Since Yuan Weiqing was afraid, then the next thing would naturally be easy to handle. Thinking of this, LV Hushan coughed lightly and said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, now you understand my painstaking efforts, right?" Although Yuan Weiqing heard LV Hushan's question, he acted as if he did not hear it and still stood there in a daze. LV Hushan sighed, "Yuan Weiqing, I think you also know that I am not lying to you. With your current martial arts, you are definitely not my opponent. The bandit leader, Boss Lu's martial arts is not much worse than mine. If he really found you, it would be a simple matter to want to restrain you. Yuan Weiqing, when the bandit leader, Boss Lu, catches you, what will happen to your family? Yuan Weiqing, I know that you are not afraid of anything. Even if you are caught by the bandit leader, you are not afraid. But is your family not afraid? Don't forget, there is still such a young child. He needs your protection, but you can't protect him. Yuan Weiqing, don't you feel guilty?" Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing's heart trembled. If the bandit leader, Boss Lu, really found his family, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yuan Weiqing was well aware of Boss Lu's temper. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become a bandit leader. Yuan Weiqing did not dare to imagine what such a person would do because he was now a weakling. In front of the bandit leader, Boss Lu, he simply had no power to resist. Once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, found him, it would definitely be a nightmare. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing let out a long sigh, but he still did not speak because he did not know what to say. Seeing Yuan Weiqing heaving a deep sigh, LV Hushan revealed a faint smile as he guided Yuan Weiqing patiently. "Yuan Weiqing, actually, it's very simple to solve this problem. As long as you follow Deputy Head Zhang's instructions, everything will be easily solved. Not only can it solve this problem, but it can also give you great benefits. Think about it, how many people like the one-armed saber king in the entire South County? Once you become such a person, you will be an existence that we look up to. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. On one hand, you have to become a top existence in the South County. On the other hand, you have to hide from the bandit leader, Boss Lu. Think about it carefully. What will you choose?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed again. "LV Hushan, I can't agree to let me deal with Hall Master Shui. No matter what you say, I won't do it." Seeing that Yuan Weiqing was still so stubborn, LV Hushan was really annoyed and sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, no one is forcing you to do it if you don't want to. However, don't you think about what will happen to you once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, finds you?" Yuan Weiqing shook his head with a bitter smile. "LV Hushan, don't say any more. I know that once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, finds me, I will definitely not have a good ending. At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused before he continued. Now that things have come to this, I can only conceal my identity and try my best to avoid him. LV Hushan let out a sigh. Yuan Weiqing, you're too stubborn. How could you make such a simple thing so complicated? As long as you follow Deputy Hall Chief Zhang's instructions, the problem will be solved. Yuan Weiqing shook his head and turned to look at LV Hushan. He sighed. LV Hushan, don't say any more. I think it's better for you to do this. You also know that I have lost my martial arts. I can't even beat you, so how can I be Hall Master Shue's opponent? Chapter 774. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, so that's what you're worried about. Don't worry, there's absolutely no problem. Speaking of this, LV Hushan took a step forward and said in a low voice, Don't you see that Hall Leader Shui is seriously injured and hasn't woken up yet? Yuan Weiqing, as long as you do it now, Hall Leader Shui will be killed by you unknowingly. This is a good opportunity. Even if Hall Leader Shui is killed by you, he probably won't know who did it. Don't you think this is a good opportunity? After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing turned to look at LV Hushan and sighed. LV Hushan, don't tell me you don't want to practice martial arts? LV Hushan nodded. Of course I want to, but can't you see that Deputy Hall Leader Zhang mainly wants you to practice martial arts? He wants you to stand up again and help you this time. Even if I want to practice martial arts, I can't stand in your way. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, you're wrong. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang didn't say that he must help me practice martial arts. You heard it just now. After he asked me, he also asked you. Don't tell me you still don't understand? Whoever is willing to do this for him, he will help that person cultivate his martial art. LV Hushan, I think that as long as you do as Deputy Hall Leader Zhang says, he will definitely help you this time. LV Hushan shook his head and said with a smile, No need. Although I want to practice martial arts, you need this opportunity more than me, so you should go. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, haven't you thought that you also need this opportunity? LV Hushan shook his head. How can that be? I still have my martial arts, but you have lost it. Speaking of which, you need to practice martial arts more than me. Yuan Weiqing shook his head and said slowly, LV Hushan, the bandit leader boss Lu will indeed come to find trouble with us. I have lost my martial arts, so I can only hide. As long as he doesn't find me, there shouldn't be a big problem. Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. LV Hushan, I'm worried about you. I've already lost my martial arts, so I can hide and live the life of an ordinary person. But you can't. You haven't lost your martial arts, so you still have to walk the martial arts world. Even if you're not the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South County, you still have to make a living elsewhere. Lu Hushan, I'm worried that the bandit leader, Boss Lu, will find trouble with you if he can't find me. Wouldn't that be terrible? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, so this is what you are worried about. Thank you for your concern, but you don't have to worry. Do you think I don't know how powerful the bandit leader Boss Lu is? At this point, Lu Hushan paused and snorted coldly before continuing. If the bandit leader, Boss Lu, doesn't come looking for trouble with me, I can still let him go this time. If he dares to come looking for trouble with me, I will definitely make sure he can't leave. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and sighed. Actually, I'm worried about you. Even if you hide, do you think you can hide from the bandit leader Boss Lu? If you are lucky, you may be able to hide. If you are unlucky and he finds you, what will you do? Yuan Weiqing waved his hand and said with a smile, LV Hushan, thank you for your concern. I have lost my martial arts, so I will naturally be more careful. I will not walk the martial arts world in the future. It is not easy for the bandit leader boss Lu to find out about me. LV Hushan, you still have to walk the martial arts world in the future. It will be much easier for the bandit leader boss Lu to find you, so the most worrying thing is actually you. LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, even if the bandit leader boss Lu finds me, what can he do? What can he do to me? Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, why is your memory still so bad? Have you forgotten who the bandit leader boss Lu's master is? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question. LV Hushan, the bandit leader boss Lu is indeed not your opponent. He is only a little weaker than you. If he asks his master to avenge him. When the master and disciple find you, I think your life will not be easy, right? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed. He suddenly remembered that the bandit leader boss Lu had such a helper. No matter what the bandit leader boss Lu had done, LV Hushan was very clear that his master would definitely help him. LV Hushan could easily defeat the bandit leader boss Lu, but the problem was, could he beat the bandit leader boss Lu's master? LV Hushan was a little uncertain. In fact, he understood that he was very likely not the opponent of the bandit leader boss Lu's master. The bandit leader boss Lu's martial arts was only a little weaker than him. The bandit leader boss Lu's martial arts must be higher. In this case, he was definitely not his opponent. Thinking of this, LV Hushan was also a little panicked. If the bandit leader boss Lu and his disciple came, would he really have no way to deal with them? The most important thing was that Yuan Weiqing's words were very reasonable. Yuan Weiqing had lost his martial arts. Naturally, he could not walk in the martial arts world. He could only conceal his identity and hide. If Yuan Weiqing hid among ordinary people, it would not be easy for the bandit leader boss Lu to find him. In contrast, LV Hushan could not do it. He had not lost his martial arts. He still had to live in the future, so he definitely had to rely on his martial arts to walk in the martial arts world. People leave their names when they pass by, and wild geese leave their voices when they pass by. As long as one walked in the martial arts world, as long as one seriously inquired, how could they not find out? Therefore, LV Hushan was also certain that if the bandit leader boss Lu wanted to find him, he would definitely be able to find him. Unless he was like Yuan Weiqing and was willing to hide as an ordinary person. Otherwise, he would definitely be found by the bandit leader boss Lu. The reason why the bandit leader boss Lu did not dare to look for the two of them now was because behind them was the South County's Tanlei sect. It was an existence that the bandit leader boss Lu could not afford to offend. Therefore, he did not dare to look for them. After today's incident, LV Hushan was also very clear that they should withdraw from the South County's Tanlei sect in the future. Once the bandit leader boss Lu knew that they had withdrawn from the South County's Tanlei sect, LV Hushan was almost certain that the bandit leader boss Lu would come to seek revenge on them. What should he do? Could it be that he had to hide like Yuan Weiqing? LV Hushan was a little unwilling to give up. Yuan Weiqing had to hide like an ordinary person because he had lost his martial arts. He still had his martial arts. How could he hide like that? However, if he did not hide, it was very likely that he would be found by the bandit leader boss Lu. At that time, it would be too late to regret. LV Hushan knew very well what kind of person the bandit leader boss Lu was. Once the bandit leader boss Lu found them, he also knew very well what would happen to them. What should he do? LV Hushan's forehead gradually broke out in cold sweat. He kept thinking in his heart about how to solve this problem. Seeing LV Hushan lowering his head in silence, Yuan Weiqing sneered in his heart. He knew that LV Hushan had already believed his words. In fact, LV Hushan had no choice but to believe these words because what Yuan Weiqing said was true. The two of them had caused the bandit leader boss Lu to be so miserable. How could others not come to seek revenge? Yuan Weiqing coughed lightly and turned to look at LV Hushan. He said with a smile, LV Hushan, you reminded me just now. I'm very grateful to you, so I've decided to find a remote place to live in seclusion and be an ordinary person forever. But you can't. You still have your martial arts. If you were to live in seclusion like an ordinary person, I'm afraid you wouldn't be willing. But if you were to roam the underworld, you would definitely be found by the bandit leader Boss Lu. At that time, what would you do? Yuan Weiqing stepped forward and patted LV Hushan's shoulder. He sighed and said, LV Hushan, as long as the bandit leader Boss Lu exists, the two of us brothers will not have a good life in the future. I think you should live in seclusion with me. Even if you're an ordinary person, at least it's better than being found by the bandit leader Boss Lu's disciple. Don't you think so? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan did not answer. He still had his martial arts. How could he be willing to be an ordinary person? After working so hard for so many years, was it just to be an ordinary person in the end? Since this was the result, why should he endure the pain of cultivation? LV Hushan thought of the pain he had suffered because of cultivation in the past. He sighed in his heart. If he had known it would be like this, he would not have practiced martial arts. At least it would be safer. Yuan Weiqing said with a smile, LV Hushan, if you still want to roam the underworld, I think you should listen to Deputy Hall Leader Zhang's order and kill Hall Leader Shui. This way, he can help you cultivate your martial arts. As long as your martial arts improve, even if the bandit leader Boss Lu and his disciple find you, they will definitely not be your opponent. LV Hushan, I think this is your only chance. If you don't seize it, you won't have another chance. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was stunned. After he reacted, he suddenly sneered in his heart. Yuan Weiqing, I wanted to persuade you to kill Hall Leader Shui, but I didn't expect that you would want to persuade me to do this. Impossible. LV Hushan raised his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing. He said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, thank you for your concern. I know you have good intentions. I appreciate it. However, the person who urgently needs to cultivate martial arts is you, not me. I still have martial arts. Even if the bandit leader Boss Lu comes looking for me, even if I can't beat them, can't I run away from them? So, I'll give this opportunity to you. Don't miss it. Otherwise, you will be the unlucky one. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing smiled. LV Hushan, you're wrong. As long as I find a place where no one can find me, I will naturally be safe. But you are different. The bandit leader Boss Lu will definitely find you. It's not like you don't know what kind of person Boss Lu is. If he wants to deal with you, do you think he'll look for you openly? Impossible. He will definitely set a trap. Even if you want to escape, I'm afraid you won't be able to. LV Hushan, if things really come to this step and I cultivate martial arts, then the unlucky one will be you. Hearing this, LV Hushan was suddenly shocked. The image of the bandit leader Boss Lu immediately appeared in his mind. If the bandit leader Boss Lu came looking for him, he would definitely do as Yuan Weiqing said. First, he would set a trap. When he was sure that he couldn't escape, then he would choose to make a move on him. The problem was that the bandit leader Boss Lu was hiding in the dark while he was in the open. Only the bandit leader Boss Lu could plot against him. He could only passively defend. When he thought that he might be caught by the bandit leader Boss Lu, LV Hushan suddenly felt an inexplicable fear. If he was really caught by the bandit leader Boss Lu, he would definitely end up in a miserable state. After all, he had occupied his territory, killed his brothers, and even severely injured him. With so much hatred added together, he would definitely remember it for the rest of his life. Seeing LV Hushan's face changing, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said with a smile, LV Hushan, actually, you don't need to worry about that. As long as you follow Deputy Hall Head Zhang's words, you won't be able to solve these problems easily. LV Hushan, why worry? It's just a little effort and you can immediately achieve something and enjoy a different life. Isn't this man good? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment. But immediately after, he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued speaking. LV Hushan, just like what you said about me just now, although Hall leader Shui promoted you to be a guardian, if it wasn't for your superior martial arts, why would he promote you? So, you are the same as me. Everything is achieved through your own effort. Hall leader Shui didn't deliberately promote you. LV Hushan, no matter what you do, outsiders won't say anything about you. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you want me to do it and then you can take advantage of it, right? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head and said with a bitter smile, LV Hushan, how is this possible? If you do it, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang will only support you to practice martial arts. How can I take advantage of it? LV Hushan, remember, you are doing this for yourself. You can't give me any benefits. Do you understand? After hearing these words, LV Hushan sneered in his heart. These were his words just now. Now, Yuan Weiqing returned these words to him. LV Hushan was very clear that once he did it, although he could practice martial arts, Yuan Weiqing would definitely not do what he said and not get any benefit. So, LV Hushan would definitely not do this. Chapter 775. LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, I think it's better to forget about it. You've already lost your martial arts. If you don't practice martial arts, I'm afraid your life is over. So, I'll leave this opportunity to you. I won't snatch it from you. Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, how can I do that? I've already said that I've lost my martial arts and am prepared to be an ordinary person in the future. I'll leave this opportunity to you. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, thank you for your concern just now. But after thinking about it, although I'm in danger, I have an advantage. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. I don't have a family. Even if the bandit leader boss Lu comes looking for me, as long as I run away, I'll be fine. But you're different. You have a family. Even if you want to run, do you think you can escape? Yuan Weiqing, don't forget that once the bandit leader boss Lu catches your family, you'll definitely not have a good time. At that time, will you save them or give them up? At this point, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment. But then, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. If you save your family, you'll definitely fall into the hands of the bandit leader boss Lu. At that time, even if I don't say it, you should know very well what the consequences will be. On the other hand, even if you want to give up your family, can you really bear to give up your son? Even if you give up and escape safely, I'm afraid you'll spend the rest of your life in pain. Yuan Weiqing, if it really comes to that situation, no matter what choice you make, I'm afraid it'll be a mistake. Because even if you save your family, you'll definitely not be able to save them because you've lost your martial art. Once you meet the bandit leader boss Lu, what will you use to fight him? But if you don't save them, you'll be in pain for the rest of your life. Yuan Weiqing, if it's really time for you to make a choice, can you guarantee that you won't regret it? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed in his heart. This was because he knew that what LV Hushan said was true. Once he left this place, the outcome might really be like that. If the bandit leader boss Lu knew that Yuan Weiqing had lost his martial arts, he would definitely come looking for trouble. At that time, how would he resist? Just like what LV Hushan said, if his family was really captured by the bandit leader boss Lu, should he save them or not? If he chose to save his family, then he would definitely fall into the hands of the bandit leader boss Lu. At that time, Yuan Weiqing didn't even dare to think about what the outcome. If he didn't save them, What would happen to his son? Was he really going to give up on them? Because if he, the bandit leader boss would not to, if he would be if the situation that he did not want to see really happened, then his life would really be like what L.V. Hushan had said, living in pain forever. At this moment, Yuan Weiqing was already very clear that he had to practice martial arts. He had no other way except for this path. Only by practicing high-level martial arts could he protect his family. Otherwise, he could only watch his family suffer for a lifetime. However, Yuan Weiqing was even more clear that if he chose to kill Hall Master Shui, then L.V. Hushan in front of him would definitely not be like what L.V. Hushan said. This meant that even if he chose to do it, he couldn't get all the benefit. He still had to share a portion with L.V. Hushan in front of him. It was precisely because of this reason that Yuan Weiqing was unwilling to do it and let L.V. Hushan take advantage of it. Since he was taking advantage of it, why didn't he take advantage of it? As long as he thought of a way to let L.V. Hushan do it, he could take advantage of it. Although the benefits were divided between two people, he might not be able to practice to the level of the one-armed saber king. However, to be honest, Yuan Weiqing really didn't want to practice to the level of the one-armed saber king. Although Yuan Weiqing wasn't clear on how much pain and suffering the one-armed saber king had to endure in order to cultivate this kind of martial art, he was sure that the pain the one-armed saber king had to endure in order to cultivate this kind of martial art was definitely not something he could imagine. Yuan Weiqing didn't want to commit such a big crime. He just wanted to make his martial art stronger. That was why he refused to practice in the secret room. Just like what Hall Master Shui said at the beginning, Yuan Weiqing would never choose to practice in the secret room. Although he was also very clear that Hall Master Shui was doing it for his own good so that he could practice high-level martial arts a day earlier, Yuan Weiqing wasn't willing to face this kind of pain. As long as he thought about practicing in such a small secret room for a few decades, Yuan Weiqing felt a chill in his heart. If he practiced in the secret room, he wouldn't be able to come out. No matter what he did, he could only do it in the secret room. Even if he wanted to sleep, he wouldn't be able to sleep comfortably. This was because the purpose of the secret room wasn't to make him comfortable, but to make the practitioner uncomfortable. If the practitioner was comfortable, then he wouldn't have the mind to practice. But if it was a kind of pain, then the practitioner would think of ways to practice martial arts as soon as possible so that he could come out of the secret room a day earlier. Yuan Weiqing was very clear about these things, but he still wasn't willing to do it. This was because he knew that once he agreed, he would have to practice in the secret room for a few decades. A few decades, even if he succeeded in practicing, how old would his son be? He would already be an old man. Then what was the point of practicing martial arts? Yuan Weiqing didn't know what L.V. Hushan was thinking. In any case, he himself didn't want to practice in the secret room. Even if he couldn't practice the one-armed saber king's martial arts, he would be satisfied if his martial arts could increase by 10 to 20%. But the problem was that after paying such a high price, his martial arts would only increase by 1 or 2 levels. Yuan Weiqing was also very clear that no matter who it was, they wouldn't agree. Now, Yuan Weiqing had already thought it through. As long as he wasn't allowed to practice in the secret room and was provided with various elixirs, then he would be very happy. It was precisely because of this reason that even if he had to share the elixirs with L.V. Hushan, Yuan Weiqing would definitely not care. This was because he didn't want to practice the one-armed saber king's martial arts. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing knew that he couldn't do it himself. As long as L.V. Hushan did it, he would get some benefits. That would be enough. Yuan Weiqing raised his head and looked at L.V. Hushan. He smiled and said, "L.V. Hushan, you are younger than me. You should have a better future. As long as you practice martial arts, you will definitely become the second one-armed saber king in the South region. So, LV Hushan, I have decided to give this opportunity to you. I only hope that after you practice martial arts, you won't forget me. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan shook his head and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, I know you have good intentions, but I can't do this. Now that you have lost your martial arts, if I still do this, then how can I be worthy of you? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused before he continued, Yuan Weiqing, I know you have a lot of concerns now. You are afraid that Hall Master Shui will blame you and say that you are ungrateful. But I've already told you that you're not being ungrateful, because Hall Master Shui has never done you any favors. How can you be ungrateful, right? So, I think you just have to make up your mind and do what you want to do. Yuan Weiqing, only by learning the upper level of martial arts can you better protect your family. Don't you understand? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered in his heart and turned to look at LV Hushan. LV Hushan, don't forget that although the bandit leader boss Lu will look for me, he will definitely not let you go. When the time comes, I am afraid that the first unlucky person will be you. So, I think you should make the first move, don't you think so? LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you really not regret it? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing hesitated for a moment before nodding. LV Hushan, don't worry. I have already decided to be an ordinary person. How can I regret it? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan nodded again and sighed. Yuan Weiqing, if you really don't regret it, then I won't persuade you. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, then you can go. I won't send you off. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. LV Hushan, why are you letting me go? LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, since you don't want to make a move and don't want to practice those high-level martial arts, then I can only do it. However, I don't want others to see it. So, since you don't want to make a move, please leave as soon as possible. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned again. After a while, he forced a smile and said, LV Hushan, what does it matter? I won't fight with you. You just have to make a move. I want to watch from the side. Can't I do that? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. No, when I make a move, I want you to watch from the side. Yuan Weiqing, only when you are far away will I make a move. Do you understand? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing forced a smile and said, LV Hushan, are you afraid that I will hinder you? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he continued to speak. LV Hushan, you can rest assured that I will never hinder you. I will just watch from the side. I won't even say a word. Is that okay? LV Hushan shook his head. No, no matter what you do, I don't want you to stay here. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, we know each other. Can't I stay here and watch? LV Hushan shook his head. Definitely not. Since you don't want to do this and want to be an ordinary person, then I will fulfill your wish. You should hurry up and be an ordinary person. After hearing these words, Yuan Weiqing smiled and shook his head. LV Hushan, after becoming an ordinary person, I can't even watch this kind of thing? LV Hushan nodded. Yuan Weiqing, since you are already an ordinary person, it is better to watch these things less to avoid causing trouble for yourself. Yuan Weiqing shook his head and asked with a smile, LV Hushan, there are only a few of us here. Even if I watch, what trouble can there be? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I have already said that I don't want others to stay here and watch. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words, he continued. Although Hall Master Shui didn't do anything to me, I still feel a little sorry for treating him like this. The more people watch here, the more uncomfortable I feel. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a sigh, "So, Yuan Weiqing, please leave." After hearing these words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "LV Hushan, you are thinking too much. Didn't we just say that Hall Master Shui didn't do anything to you? The reason why you can become the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South region is all because of your own efforts. What does it have to do with others? So I think you don't have to feel guilty. As long as you do it, no one will blame you." LV Hushan shook his head. "No, I don't want to be seen by others. You'd better leave as soon as possible." Yuan Weiqing shook his head. "LV Hushan, I'm just looking. I won't say this out loud. Just don't worry and do it boldly. There will definitely be no problem." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan frowned and suddenly said, "Yuan Weiqing, no matter what, as long as you are here, I can't do anything." At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. "Yuan Weiqing, if you insist on staying here, do you want to do it?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. "No, I really just want to watch." "Why don't you do it?" LV Hushan shook his head. "No, if you stay, you will do it. Otherwise, you can't stay." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but frown and said unhappily, "LV Hushan, I'm just looking. Why do you have to do this?" LV Hushan sighed. "Yuan Weiqing, if you don't want to do it but want to stay, then I'm sorry, I can only be impolite to you." Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was furious. "LV Hushan, do you dare to do it to me?" LV Hushan raised his head, looked at Yuan Weiqing and sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, even if I want to do it to you, what can you do to me?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing felt a wave of anger surge into his mind. He was about to shout angrily, but his heart moved and he was suddenly stunned. Because he suddenly remembered that he was no longer LV Hushan's opponent. Chapter 776. When LV Hushan saw Yuan Weiqing's expression, he naturally knew what he was thinking. He suddenly sighed and said slowly, "Yuan Weiqing, you are already an ordinary person. Do you still want to fight with me? It is because of this reason that I have been trying to persuade you to agree to Vice Hall Master Zhang's conditions so that you can stand up again. If you don't practice martial arts, once you are found by the bandit leader, Boss Liu, how can you resist? If you can't stop Boss Liu, don't you know what will happen to you? Yuan Weiqing, I think you should stop hesitating. This won't do you any good. At this point, you can only listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang's suggestion to have a chance of survival. Otherwise, your life will be over. Don't you understand?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but sigh. How could he not understand the logic behind this? If he lost his martial arts, the bandit leader, Boss Liu, would definitely not let him go. At that time, he wouldn't be able to defeat Boss Liu. In the end, he naturally wouldn't have a good ending. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing believed his words, LV Hushan nodded. "Yuan Weiqing, even if you don't think for yourself now, you have to think for your family. Without your protection, what will your family do? Yuan Weiqing, you harmed the bandit leader, Boss Liu, but your family didn't do this. Once Boss Liu comes looking for you, you won't blame me. But what about your family? They didn't do anything, but they have to bear this responsibility with you. Do you think this is right?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head. "LV Hushan, it is because of this reason that I want to hide. I think that as long as I hide in a place where there is no one, Boss Liu will definitely not be able to find me." LV Hushan shook his head. "A place where there is no one?" Speaking of this, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, do you think that if someone really wants to find you, it will be useful for you to hide?" LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, I'm telling you, this won't work. Think about it, if you're in this world, you'll leave behind traces. When the time comes, the bandit leader boss Lu will follow these traces and find you. No matter how well you hide, you won't be able to escape from his pursuit. When that time comes, as long as the bandit leader boss Lu finds you, I think your family will suffer with you. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head. LV Hushan, I believe that it won't happen. If I hide in a remote place where no outsider can find me, I believe that as long as I live carefully, he definitely won't be able to find us. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan didn't argue and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, even if you are right because you hide too well, the bandit leader boss Lu really won't be able to find you. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you mean that you and your family will stay in a place where there is no one for the rest of your life? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sighed. In order to keep my family safe, I can only make such a helpless choice. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing. LV Hushan, now that I have lost my martial arts, this is the only way I can think of. As long as we hide, the bandit leader boss Lu will definitely not be able to find us. LV Hushan nodded. Yuan Weiqing, do you mean that if you hide in a place where there is no one, your son will also hide in a place where there is no one for the rest of his life? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly stunned. After a while, he suddenly realized that he had never thought of this question. He could hide in a place where there was no one for the rest of his life because he had lost his martial arts. Once he walked out, it was very likely that the bandit leader boss Lu would find him. However, if Yuan Weiqing could do this, could his son do the same? People would grow up very quickly. When his son grew up, would he be like him, hiding in a place where there was no one for the rest of his life? The answer was impossible. This was absolutely impossible. In a few years, his son would grow up. When that time came, would his son still be willing to hide in a place like this? Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but sigh. When that time came, even if his son wanted to hide in a place where there was no one for the rest of his life, he wouldn't agree. Don't forget, when his son grew up, he still had to marry a wife and continue the Yuan family. However, if he hid in a place where there was no one for the rest of his life, how could he accomplish these things? Therefore, Yuan Weiqing could hide in a place where there was no one for the rest of his life. His son would definitely walk out from a place where there was no one. As for when he would walk out, it was only a matter of time. Seeing Yuan Weiqing lowering his head and not speaking, LV Hushan sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, you should have thought it through. Even if you can hide for the rest of your life, your family can't because their lives have just begun. How can they live in a place where there is no one for the rest of their life? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment. However, immediately after, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued speaking. Yuan Weiqing, if your son walks out from a place where there is no one and is accidentally discovered by the bandit leader boss Lu, what should you do at that time? Yuan Weiqing, have you thought about this problem? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead and said with a forced smile, LV Hushan, how is this possible? Even if my son walks out from a place where there is no one, in the vast sea of people, could the bandit leader boss Lu find him so coincidentally? LV Hushan, this is absolutely impossible. It is unrealistic for the bandit leader boss Lu to find my son. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan shook his head and suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, tell me, we have such a huge grudge with the bandit leader boss Lu. Will he remember us? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing didn't answer and only nodded silently. He caused the bandit leader boss Lu to be so miserable. Even if it was him, he would never forget the grudge between the two sides. Seeing Yuan Weiqing nod his head, Lu Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, you also know that the bandit leader, Boss Lu, will never forget this grudge. Therefore, even if you go missing and he can't find you, he will never give up looking for you. I think that as long as the bandit leader Boss Lu is still in this world, he will definitely continue to look for you until he finds you. Yuan Weiqing, if this is the case, when your son walks out from a place where there is no one and comes to the underworld, do you think the bandit leader Boss Lu will be able to find your son? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, although the bandit leader Boss Lu can't forget this grudge, since I am missing, where can he find me? Moreover, my son is just an ordinary young man. Would he know that this young man is my son? LV Hushan, don't scare me. No matter how capable the bandit leader Boss Lu is, it will definitely not be so easy for him to find me or my son. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan smiled and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, let's make an example. If you leave here now, of course, you also understand that leaving here is equivalent to leaving the Tanlei sect in the South County. I am sure that once the bandit leader Boss Lu knows about this, he will definitely look for you crazily. Yuan Weiqing, although you want to hide, there will always be some clues before you hide, right? The bandit leader Boss Lu will follow these clues to find you. I believe that even if he can't find you, he will be able to find a rough location. For example, after you leave the Tanlei sect in the South County, you will keep going south. Although the bandit leader Boss Lu doesn't know where you will go, he will ask and inquire. I believe that with his patience, he will definitely be able to find your final clue. Yuan Weiqing, if you hide in a place where there is no one, perhaps the bandit leader Boss Lu won't be able to find your final hiding place. However, if you completely lose track of where you are, the bandit leader Boss Lu will definitely be able to find out. LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and continued with a smile. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. In order to find you, the bandit leader Boss Lu will definitely stay at the place where you disappeared and keep investigating. Perhaps he will even settle down at the place where you disappeared. His intention is, of course, to find you. Perhaps after many years, when your son grows up and wants to leave this place, you will also think that the bandit leader Boss Lu has long forgotten about you, so you agreed. Yuan Weiqing, what do you think the bandit leader Boss Lu, who has been looking for you, will suddenly find a young man who looks very similar to you? What do you think he will do? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he snorted coldly and continued. Yuan Weiqing, if I were the bandit leader Boss Lu, then I would capture that young man first and then ask him in detail. Yuan Weiqing, I believe that your son is not as strong as you. After all, they are children. It's probably not that easy to be strong. So, in the end, your son will definitely tell the bandit leader, Big Boss Lu, everything that happened. Yuan Weiqing, when the head of the bandits, Boss Lu, finds out about this, do you think he will bring your son to look for you? Moreover, with your son leading the way, will he find you? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing's forehead suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He wiped it with his sleeve, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't wipe it all off. Sweat still flowed down his sleeve and onto his eyes. LV Hushan didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to speak and continued. Yuan Weiqing, of course, what I said is only a possibility. If you don't let your son come out from a place where there is no one around for the sake of safety, this matter naturally won't happen. However, I don't know if your son will agree. I heard that when children grow up, they will become disobedient. Even if you want to control him, will he listen? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, for safety reasons, I can only choose to not let him leave the place where he is hiding. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if you are strict, I also think that your son might sneak out. Do you think there is such a possibility? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing remembered his son's naughty appearance, and could not help but sigh again. He had to admit that what LV Hushan said was true. Not to mention when the child grew up, even now, if the child wanted something and he did not give it to him, he would cry for 3 days and 3 nights until you gave it to him. When he was young, he was already like this. When he grew up, wouldn't he be even more powerful? LV Hushan sighed and continued, Yuan Weiqing, in fact, you and I both understand that if you want the child to hide in a place where no one is around and let him live in such a place for the rest of his life, he will never agree. Even we are not willing to stay in a place for the rest of our lives, let alone a place where no one is around. I remember that when I was practicing martial arts, my master wanted to lock me up and let me practice martial arts. However, what happened in the end? I sneaked out. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused. He turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, I still remember that the place my master let me practice is actually the woodshed in the backyard. There is only one door and a very small window in the woodshed. Yuan Weiqing, you should know that the window in the woodshed is very high and small in order not to be a hindrance. Because the door has been locked, if you want to go out, you can only go out through the window. But the window is too small and I can't reach it. Yuan Weiqing, guess what I did? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing was not in the mood to answer at the moment. He just forced a smile and said, How would I know? I have never been to that woodshed. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan did not take it seriously and continued to say with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, I tell you, I was very short at that time. It was impossible for me to climb up the window. In desperation, I moved all the things in the woodshed to the bottom of the window. At that time, I was too small and it took a lot of effort to move these things. Now that I think about it, it's really ridiculous. You don't practice martial arts in the woodshed, but you spend a lot of effort to move those things to the bottom of the window. After I moved those things to the bottom of the window, I climbed these things to the top of the window. Although I was small at that time, the window was too small. I was not afraid and directly squeezed out through the window. As a result, I was stuck on the window. After several efforts, I finally got out, but because I was not able to stand firm. Chapter 777. LV Hushan continued, As a result, I fell to the ground and broke my leg. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing casually responded, I didn't expect you to have such an experience when you were a child. LV Hushan smiled and nodded, Yuan Weiqing, I haven't finished yet. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued. In the following period of time, because of my leg injury, I could only recuperate at home. After recuperating at home for a few days, my leg didn't hurt much, so I wanted to go out to play. But under such circumstances, no parent would agree to it. So, even if my leg was injured, I still sneaked out. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, when you were young, were you very naughty? Yuan Weiqing was not in the mood to answer this question, so he could only deal with it again. Whose child is not naughty? It will be fine when they grow up. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan shook his head and said with a smile, How is that possible? When you grow up, I'm afraid it will be worse. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued. I remember that when I grew up, I seemed to be even more naughty. Once, there was a temple fair in a nearby village. I wanted to go to play, but my family didn't agree. They were afraid that I would sneak out, so they sent someone to watch me. But guess what? In order to go to the temple fair, I stole some wine from the kitchen, and then drank with that person until he drank too much. Then I sneaked out. Speaking of this, LV Hushan suddenly sighed. Yuan Weiqing, whether it is me or others. In short, when they reach a certain age, it is impossible for you to watch them. It may even lead to the opposite effect, making them want to go out and see what is out there. Yuan Weiqing, you said that you want to live in seclusion in a place where there is no one, and you want to live the rest of your life. I believe that because you have passed the time of playing. However, although you can live in seclusion for the rest of your life, I can assure you that your son will not be willing to do so. Even if you keep an eye on him, even if you lock him in the woodshed, he will think of all kinds of ways to sneak out. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused. He sighed again and continued, Yuan Weiqing, if it were someone else's child, even if he sneaked out to play once or twice, it wouldn't be a problem. But your son can't. Don't forget that the bandit leader, Boss Lu, is still waiting for you. Once he discovers your son, I'm sure he'll capture your son and find out where you are. Yuan Weiqing, at that time, even if you still have your martial arts, your son will still be in the hands of the bandit leader, Boss Lu. You will still be helpless and obediently fall into the hands of the bandit leader, Boss Lu. At that time, Yuan Weiqing, you should know better than me what the consequences will be. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing finally understood the meaning of his words. Although he also wanted to admit that LV Hushan's words were very reasonable, he could not admit it and could only say with a forced smile, LV Hushan, it's okay. I will explain this matter to my son clearly and let him know that there are evil people waiting for us outside. He must not go out. I believe that as long as he knows about this, he will definitely not go out. After listening to Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, do you think that you will be safe if you tell this matter? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but immediately after, he did not wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, let me tell you, this is impossible. You may make this matter sound very serious, but I can be sure that your son will definitely not think that this matter is very serious. He will think that he will only go out once anyway, and he will definitely not be discovered. It is precisely because he thinks this way that he will go out. If he really goes out once and is lucky enough not to be seen by the bandit leader Boss Lu, then he will think that you are exaggerating and that it is not that dangerous outside. So, at that time, even if you want to interfere, he will not listen. Yuan Weiqing, I have said so much to tell you that even if you go into seclusion, your son will definitely come out. Even if you want to interfere, he will not listen to you. At that time, once your son is discovered by the bandit leader Boss Lu and you do not have martial arts, I am afraid that you will not have a good ending. After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sighed. Things have already come to this point. I've already thought it through. Let's take it one step at a time. If the bandit leader Boss Lu is still looking for me, then I'll consider myself unlucky. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan nodded and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, since you admit that you are unlucky and have no ambition, then I will not persuade you. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused before he continued, Yuan Weiqing, you should quickly leave here now and live a normal life. Do not hinder me from doing things. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, I am really just looking. I will definitely not hinder you. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused before he continued, LV Hushan, think about it. I have already lost my martial arts. Even if I wanted to hinder you, there is no way I can do it. LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, let us not beat around the bush. I will tell you now. If you do not want to do this, then you should leave as soon as possible. I do not want to wait until after I have done this, then you will still have to split the benefits with me. Do you understand? Hearing this sentence, Yuan Weiqing felt a chill in his heart, but in order to get some benefits, he could only grit his teeth and say with a forced smile, LV Hushan, you can rest assured. Just do it. I will never share any benefits with you. LV Hushan shook his head and asked with a sneer, Yuan Weiqing, do you think I will believe what you say? Yuan Weiqing frowned. LV Hushan, how can I say it so that you will believe me? LV Hushan raised his finger and pointed to the distance. He slowly said, Yuan Weiqing, I will not believe anything you say. Only when you leave here will I believe you. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, why do you have to do this? Our relationship is usually good. I just want to stay. There is absolutely no other meaning. LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, for this matter, either you do it or you leave quickly. There is no third way. Yuan Weiqing shook his head and said with a wry smile, LV Hushan, for the sake of our many years of friendship, let me stay. Hearing this sentence, LV Hushan sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, stay? Why should I let you stay? Do you want to share my benefits? Yuan Weiqing, if you were me, would you agree? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned and sighed in his heart. If this matter was reversed, he would never agree to let LV Hushan stay. The reason why Yuan Weiqing did not agree to do this matter was that he did not want to benefit LV Hushan. Similarly, LV Hushan did not want to do things himself and let Yuan Weiqing get any benefit. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing smiled bitterly. Lu Hushan, you also know that I have lost my martial arts. If this goes on, it will be like what you said. Once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, finds me, then my family and I will be finished. LV Hushan, I won't beat around the bush with you. Go and kill Hall Master Shui now. I don't want too many benefits, I just want 30%. I'll be satisfied with it if my martial arts recover a bit. 30%. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, your appetite is not small. You don't do anything and you still want 30%. Are you still sleeping? Although LV Hushan's tone was somewhat impolite, at this moment, Yuan Weiqing could not care less. He could only pretend not to hear and said with a forced smile. LV Hushan, as long as you give me 30%, I will be very grateful. In the future, I will repay you. LV Hushan waved his hand and turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing. He sneered, Yuan Weiqing, I don't want you to repay me. I want you to do something for me. Do you agree? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing smiled bitterly and shook his head. LV Hushan, although you said that my position was obtained through my own efforts, no matter what, it was Hall Leader Shui who promoted me. If he did not promote me, how could I become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region? LV Hushan, so I can't forget this kindness. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I know what you said is right. It is true. Hall Leader Shui is really a good person. Even if my martial arts are not very high, he still promoted me to be the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region. How can I forget this kindness? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, you are different from me. You don't understand my situation. At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for LV Hushan to answer him and continued. LV Hushan, at that time, when Hall Leader Shui promoted me, I was not the only one who was qualified to be the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region. There was another person who was nominated by Vice Hall Leader Zhang. If it was the person that Vice Hall Leader Zhang mentioned, it would be impossible for me to become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region. It was Hall Leader Shui who chose me to be the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region. Therefore, for this kindness, I can't do such a thing. Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at LV Hushan. LV Hushan, you're different. Your opportunity is very good. Although there's a protector position, no one will compete with you. You will naturally become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South County. Therefore, you don't have to be grateful to Hall Master Shui. If you take action in this matter, you are indeed stronger than me. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you are wrong. At that time, it was not so easy for me to become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, before we became protectors, we had a test. Do you still remember? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing nodded. Of course I remember. When each of us became a protector, we would have a test. If we passed, we would become an official protector. If we failed, even if someone nominated us, we would not be able to become a protector. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan nodded. Then, he sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, to be honest, I did not pass this test. What? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and asked quickly, LV Hushan, since you did not pass this test, how did you become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region? At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued. But that's not right. If you didn't pass this test, you wouldn't have become a protector. No, I remember that you clearly passed that test. Why did you say that you didn't pass it? LV Hushan nodded and said with a bitter smile, Yuan Weiqing, you are right. I did pass that test. However, I did not pass it by myself. I passed it with the help of Hall Master Shui. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, you also know that my martial arts are not as good as yours, and that test was the most difficult one, so I did not pass. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing frowned and asked with some doubt, LV Hushan, I remember that the test for you to become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region should be to go to the back of the mountain to retrieve a spirit stone. I remember that you had obtained that spirit stone at that time. Didn't you pass that test? Why did you say that you did not pass? LV Hushan suddenly let out a long sigh. Yuan Weiqing, so you still remember this matter. Indeed, my test was to go to the back of the mountain to retrieve a spirit stone. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing, Yuan Weiqing, you should also know that although this test is to go to the back of the mountain to retrieve a spirit stone, it is actually not that simple. Spirit stones are very easy to obtain. There are many in the back of the mountain. However, there is a snow leopard guarding the spirit stone. Yuan Weiqing, I don't know if you have seen that snow leopard, but I can tell you that this snow leopard is very powerful. With my martial arts at that time, it was absolutely impossible for me to deal with it. In fact, even now, I am not 100% confident that I can defeat that snow leopard. Chapter 778. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was a little surprised and asked doubtfully, LV Hushan, since you can't beat the snow leopard, how did you get the spirit stone? LV Hushan sighed, Yuan Weiqing, I won't hide it from you now. My spirit stone was given to me by Hall Master Shui. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. In order to let me pass smoothly, Hall Master Shui went to the back of the mountain to get a spirit stone in advance. That's why I passed so smoothly. LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a bitter smile, Yuan Weiqing, without Hall Master Shui's help, I wouldn't have been able to become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South region. Do you understand now? After hearing these words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a while. After he reacted, he nodded and said slowly, actually, I was still suspicious. Even if I went to deal with that snow leopard, I'm afraid it wouldn't be an easy task. Your martial arts are not as good as mine, but you were able to get the spirit stone without any injuries. I was indeed curious about this at that time, but now I finally understand. It was Hall Master Xue who helped you. With Hall Master Xue's martial arts, it was definitely easy to deal with that snow leopard. He naturally didn't spend much effort to get the spirit stone. I really didn't expect the truth to be like this. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan smiled bitterly and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, now you understand why I don't want to deal with Hall Master Xue. It's all because Hall Master Xue did me a favor. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing didn't answer because he couldn't. If LV Hushan shouldn't have made a move on Hall Master Xue, wouldn't that mean that he had to do it himself? It was precisely because of this reason that Yuan Weiqing didn't speak. LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, no matter what, I was able to become the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South region because of Hall Master Xue's help. That's why I was able to pass smoothly. I can't forget this favor, so I can't do it. LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and slowly said, Yuan Weiqing, in comparison, I think it's more suitable for you to do it. What do you think? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, how can I do that? You owe Hall Master Xue a favor, but you don't want to deal with him. However, I owe Hall Master Xue a favor as well. How do you want me to deal with him? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, since both of us are indebted to Hall Master Xue, are we not going to do it? Yuan Weiqing nodded with a wry smile. Hall Master Xue has done us a favor. It would be inappropriate for us to do this. Lu Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if we don't do this, we will be in trouble once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, comes looking for us. Hearing this name, Yuan Weiqing sighed inwardly. If he hadn't offended the bandit leader, Boss Lu, this matter would be much easier to handle. Even if he didn't practice martial arts, he would at least be an ordinary person. However, there was nothing to regret. Since he had offended the bandit leader, Boss Lu, he had to find a way to solve this problem. However, how should he solve it? Yuan Weiqing knew that he couldn't do it. On one hand, he couldn't live with his conscience. On the other hand, he didn't want LV Hushan to take advantage of him. Therefore, in Yuan Weiqing's opinion, he could only let LV Hushan do it. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a wry smile, LV Hushan, I think you should do it. I really can't bear to do it. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was a little annoyed. Yuan Weiqing, what are you saying? You can't bear to do it? Are you saying that I have a heart of stone? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, I didn't mean that. I always felt that you should need the opportunity to practice more than me, so I gave this opportunity to you. LV Hushan shook his head and said with a sneer, Yuan Weiqing, you have lost your martial arts. Don't you want to recover your martial arts and stand up again? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer him and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, don't forget that there is still a bandit leader, Boss Lu, waiting for you outside. As long as he knows that you have lost your martial arts, he will definitely not let you go. Yuan Weiqing, for yourself and your family, I think you should be the one to do it, right? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, you should do it. As long as you master the peerless martial arts and become the second one-armed saber king, you only need to get rid of the bandit leader, Boss Lu. Then, won't I be safe? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's heart was moved. If LV Hushan could really get rid of the bandit leader, Boss Lu, it would definitely be a great thing for him. Most importantly, if LV Hushan got rid of Hall Master Xue, he could still get a share of the loot. Why not? Therefore, the person who would do it must be LV Hushan. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, that's impossible. When I master my martial arts, the bandit leader, Boss Lu, will be nothing in front of me. Why should I get rid of him? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer him and continued speaking with some regret. Yuan Weiqing, we caused the bandit leader, Boss Lu, to be so miserable. If we get rid of him, I can't bear it in my heart. Therefore, even if I master the peerless martial arts, I won't deal with the bandit leader, Boss Lu. Yuan Weiqing, when the time comes, you should pray for yourself, right? Yuan Weiqing frowned. LV Hushan, the bandit leader, Boss Lu, is not a good person. Even if you get rid of him, you have done a good thing. Why don't you do it? LV Hushan shook his head. I don't care if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I only know that we caused the bandit leader, Boss Lu, to be so miserable. I can't bear to make a move on him. Besides, the bandit leader, Boss Lu, is no longer a threat to me. Why should I make a move? Don't you think so? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but frown. He didn't expect LV Hushan to answer like this. LV Hushan, we practice martial arts to deal with bad people. The bandit leader, Boss Lu, is not a good person. Why don't you get rid of him? LV Hushan, when your martial arts were not high, you didn't get rid of him because you couldn't beat him. But your martial arts are enough. Why don't you get rid of him? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. Even if I become the second one-armed saber king in South County, I won't get rid of the bandit leader, Boss Lu. If you want to get rid of the bandit leader, Boss Lu, I won't stop you. Just do it. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was a little annoyed. LV Hushan, I have lost my martial arts. Even if I want to get rid of the bandit leader, Boss Lu, do you think I can do it? LV Hushan turned his head to look at the unconscious Hall Master Shui in the distance, and suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, as long as you do as Deputy Hall Master Zhang says, you naturally have the ability to get rid of the bandit leader, Boss Lu. Don't you think so? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. Then, he shook his head with a wry smile. LV Hushan, you know that I don't want to do it. Why do you have to make things difficult for me? I think you should do it. If you master the peerless martial arts and get rid of the bandit leader, Boss Lu, for me, I will be very grateful. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, since you don't want to do it, I won't force you. Go back now and think about it. Once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, finds you, what will you do? Hearing that LV Hushan wanted him to leave again, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, let me stay. I don't want to share your benefits. I just want to stay and take a look. Then, we will leave together. LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, why should I go with you? Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, what you said just now is right. Once the bandit leader, Boss Lu, knows that I have lost 5 men, he will definitely find a way to deal with me. For my own safety, I can only go with you. At least I will be safer. LV Hushan, are you not willing to agree to this small request of mine? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan shook his head. No. Since you don't agree to my request, why should I agree to your condition? Yuan Weiqing, as long as you leave here, we will no longer be friends. Even if the bandit leader, Boss Lu, finds trouble with you, you will have nothing to do with me. Do you understand? Yuan Weiqing clenched his teeth. LV Hushan, are you really so heartless? We have been friends for so many years. Now that I have lost my martial arts, I want you to protect me for once. Are you not going to agree? LV Hushan pondered for a moment before slowly saying, Yuan Weiqing, remember what you said. If I don't agree to your request, it will make me seem unreasonable. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. How about this, you go to the nearby town and wait for me. After I am done here, I will go find you. Is that okay? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, LV Hushan, why go through so much trouble? I will wait for you here. After you are done, I will go with you. That will save you the trouble of looking for me, right? LV Hushan shook his head. No, I don't want you to stay here. The reason why I agreed to go to the town to find you is because we are friends. If you don't leave, then I can't do anything about it. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, in that case, I will wait here. You go over there and do it. I am so far away from you. There should be no problem, right? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan shook his head again. No, you have to leave now. Do you understand? Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. LV Hushan, are you saying that I can't even stand here? LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a sneer, Yuan Weiqing, if you stay, there is only one possibility. That is, you have to kill Hall Master Shui. Otherwise, there is no other possibility. Do you understand? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer him, he sighed and continued. Yuan Weiqing, I don't understand. Why aren't you willing to do it? Look at you. What have you become? You have lost your martial arts and left the secret Thunder sect in the South County. You have nothing. The bandit leader, Boss Lu, who you defeated in the past, has now become a threat to you. The bandit leader, Boss Lu, not only threatened you, but also your family. Yuan Weiqing, now that things have come to this, I don't understand. What are you still holding on to? If you continue like this, I can guarantee you that in less than a month, Boss Lu will find you and your family. Do you know what the most painful thing in the world is? Yuan Weiqing, when the bandit leader Boss Lu finds you, it will be too late for you to regret. Don't you understand? Do you have to wait until you regret before you are willing to give up? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing could not help but sigh in his heart. Naturally, he knew the problems that LV Hushan mentioned better than anyone else. If Vice Hall Master Zhang asked him to do something else, he would definitely do it without hesitation. This was because if he didn't do it, it was very likely that he would be threatened by the bandit leader, Boss LV. Yuan Weiqing did not want to regret it, but he did not want to do it either, so he absolutely refused to leave. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, Hall Master Shui has promoted me. If I go against him, I really can't bear it. LV Hushan, go ahead and do it. When it's done, as long as you get rid of Boss Lu, I will be very satisfied. At that time, I will live a normal life and not bother you. What do you think? LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, although Hall Master Shui has promoted you and you should be grateful to him, don't forget that your family is very good to you. Moreover, you have a son. For your son, you should do something, right? If you don't do anything now and just leave like this, won't you and your son be in trouble when the bandit leader, Boss Lu, meets you? LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and sighed deeply. Yuan Weiqing, there is one thing that you may know. Today, even if we don't deal with Hall Master Shui, Vice Hall Master Zhang will definitely not let him go. This means that Hall Master Shui must be killed. Since Hall Master Shui is going to be killed, does it matter who kills him? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a while before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, if Hall Master Shui is killed by Vice Hall Master Zhang, you won't get any benefits. However, Hall Master Shui is still killed. In this case, why don't you kill Hall Master Shui? Chapter 779. LV Hushan continued. Yuan Weiqing, since Hall Master Shui is going to die, why don't you do it? Isn't it good to get some benefits? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. After a while, he reacted and sighed in his heart. LV Hushan was right. From Vice Hall Master Zhang's expression just now, Yuan Weiqing had already understood that Hall Master Shui would definitely not go back today. Since the outcome was already decided, why didn't he do it? As long as he made a move, all the problems would be easily solved. Bandits like Boss Lu would all be defeated by him. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing was really tempted. There was a reason why he didn't want to do it just now. It was because Hall Master Xue had helped him, so he couldn't bear to do it. But since he already knew Hall Master Xue's fate, the reluctance in his heart seemed to have lessened a lot. In this case, would it make a difference whether Vice Hall Master Zhang did it or he did it? Anyway, no matter who did it today, Hall Master Xue wouldn't go back. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing raised his head and looked at LV Hushan. When he was about to speak, he suddenly saw a faint sneer on LV Hushan's face. Seeing LV Hushan's sneer, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly shocked. If he did it, this guy would take advantage of it, no? Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, you're right, but I really can't do it. Hall Master Xue has helped me. It's fine if I don't repay him, but how can I do it? So, even if I'm an ordinary person, I won't do it. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused before he continued. LV Hushan, if you're willing, then you can go. Everyone has their own ambitions, I won't stop you. Hearing this, the sneer on LV Hushan's face immediately disappeared and he frowned. Yuan Weiqing, what do you mean? I've already said that even if you don't do it today, others will do it. When others do it, you won't get any benefit. At that time, once Boss Lu finds you, you won't have a good ending. Don't you understand? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, don't try to persuade me. I've already decided to be an ordinary person in the future. I won't get involved in the underworld. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, since you don't listen to my advice, then I won't persuade you. Leave now, I don't want to see you again. After hearing LV Hushan, Yuan Weiqing frowned, then nodded. Well, in that case, we'll see each other. After he finished speaking, he turned to walked slowly. Seeing Yuan Weiqing really leave, LV Hushan was stunned. He never thought that Yuan Weiqing would really choose to leave. According to his estimation, Yuan Weiqing was no different from having lost his martial arts. Under such circumstances, coupled with the matter with the bandit leader, Boss Lu, Yuan Weiqing would definitely choose to do as Vice Hall Master Zhang said. At that time, he would be able to take advantage of the situation. However, he didn't expect Yuan Weiqing to agree to leave and not do anything to Hall Master Xue. Looking at Yuan Weiqing's back, LV Hushan suddenly sneered and muttered, Yuan Weiqing, since you don't want to, then I won't be polite. LV Hushan turned and walked towards Zhang Chunren. At this moment, Zhang Chunren was standing beside Yi Tianhua. However, he didn't say anything and just looked at Yi Tianhua quietly. Yi Tianhua didn't feel good either. Zhang Chunren's palm was too strong and directly injured him. If it wasn't for the fact that his internal energy wasn't weak, he would have been killed by that palm strike just now. Although Zhang Chunren was looking at Yi Tianhua, he was also paying attention to LV Hushan and Yuan Weiqing's movements. This was because he knew that Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan would definitely come back. Sure enough, not long after, LV Hushan walked back from afar. However, Zhang Chunren frowned because LV Hushan was the only one who came back. Zhang Chunren waited until LV Hushan came in front of him and asked with a sneer, LV Hushan, why are you back? LV Hushan sighed, Vice Hall Master Zhang, after Hall Master Xue was killed, you're the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County. How can I not come back? Zhang Chunren nodded, LV Hushan, although what you said is right, don't forget that Hall Master Xue is still alive. I'm not the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County yet. LV Hushan glanced at Hall Master Xue in the distance and suddenly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, Hall Master Xue will be killed soon, so you must be the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded in satisfaction and asked in a deep voice, LV Hushan, you're back. Where's Yuan Weiqing? Where did he go? Hearing Zhang Chuanren's question, LV Hushan shook his head. Vice Hall Master Zhang, Yuan Weiqing wants to live an ordinary life, so he left. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question and continued to speak. But it doesn't matter. As long as I'm here, everything can be done. Zhang Chunren looked into the distance and suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, do you think Yuan Weiqing really left? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was shocked and hurriedly asked, Vice Hall Master Zhang, did Yuan Weiqing not leave? Zhang Chunren looked into the distance and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing didn't leave. He's hiding in the woods in front. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused and turned to look at LV Hushan before continuing, LV Hushan, did you ask Yuan Weiqing to wait for you in the woods? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan suddenly became angry. He didn't expect Yuan Weiqing to play this trick. Vice Hall Master Zhang, no, he told me that he was going to leave here. I thought he had left. Who would have thought that he was hiding there? Zhang Chunren nodded and sneered. It seems that Yuan Weiqing is still unwilling. LV Hushan sighed. I should have known that Yuan Weiqing would not be willing. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing, Vice Hall Master Zhang, why don't I drive him away? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Why drive him away? Isn't it better to bring him here? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed. If he brought Yuan Weiqing here, wouldn't he have to share the benefits with him? Vice Hall Master Zhang, this? Zhang Chunren waved his hand and said with a smile, LV Hushan, I know what you're thinking. Don't worry. Since you're willing to come back, I won't treat you badly. Go, bring Yuan Weiqing back. I want to see what she wants to do. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was overjoyed. He hurriedly clasped his fist at Zhang Chunren and turned to walk toward the woods in the distance. Yuan Weiqing thought that he had hidden well. The reason why he left so quickly was that he wanted to hide in the woods and wait for LV Hushan to make a move. Then, he would come out and take advantage of the situation. However, after hiding in the woods for a while, he felt that something was wrong. Because he saw that after the two of them exchanged a few words, LV Hushan walked toward him. Yuan Weiqing was taken aback. He wondered if LV Hushan had already discovered him. When LV Hushan got closer, Yuan Weiqing finally understood that LV Hushan had discovered him. LV Hushan was annoyed and quickly walked to the edge of the woods. He looked into the woods and saw Yuan Weiqing. Yuan Weiqing, come here. Yuan Weiqing heard LV Hushan's tone and wanted to escape. However, he knew that he couldn't outrun LV Hushan. In desperation, he could only come out of the woods and walk to LV Hushan's side. Yuan Weiqing, didn't you leave? Why are you still here? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing smiled awkwardly. LV Hushan, I didn't do it on purpose. When I came here, I suddenly wanted to go to the toilet. LV Hushan, you also know that for people of our age, if we go to the toilet outside, it's really inconvenient. So, I hid in the woods. LV Hushan sneered and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, so that's the case. Are you done going to the toilet? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded. I'm done. I'll go now. LV Hushan sneered. No need, Vice Hall Leader Zhang wants you to go. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and hurriedly asked, LV Hushan, why does Vice Hall Leader Zhang want me to go there? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, how would I know? Why don't you ask him yourself and you'll know? After listening to LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his teeth. Although he was a little afraid, things had already come to this point. Even if he went back, he would lose his martial art. It was better to try his luck. Maybe if he was lucky, Vice Hall Leader Zhang would let him practice martial arts again. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing nodded. Okay, I'll go with you. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan nodded and no longer looked at him. He turned and walked toward Vice Hall leader Zhang. Yuan Weiqing hesitated for a moment, gritted his teeth, and quickly followed. Soon, the two came in front of Zhang Chunren. Yuan Weiqing hurriedly stepped forward and asked with a smile. Vice Hall leader Zhang, I wonder why you're looking for me? Zhang Chunren sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I just asked you to do something, but you refused to do it. I asked you to leave, but you refused to leave. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing. I asked LV Hushan to call you back, because I want to ask you, what do you want? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed. Vice Hall leader Zhang, you know that I owe Hall leader Shui a little, so I really can't do anything to him. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer his question, he continued to speak. Vice Hall leader Zhang, if it were anything else, as long as you say the word, I would definitely do it for you. However, I really can't do it for you. Zhang Chunren sneered. Yuan Weiqing, just now I asked you to stand in front of me. In the end, did you do it for me? When Yi Tianhua rushed over, you were the first to run, right? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said awkwardly, Vice Hall leader Zhang, I was careless just now. I definitely won't dare to do it again. Please give me another chance. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly turned his head to look at Hall leader Shui in the distance and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you only have this one chance. If you do this for me, I will naturally believe you. However, if you don't do it, you won't have another chance. Hearing that Zhang Chunren still wanted him to do this, Yuan Weiqing was so anxious that cold sweat broke out on his forehead as he spoke loudly. Vice Hall leader Zhang, apart from this matter, I can do anything for you. However, I really can't do this. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer his question, he continued to speak. Vice Hall leader Zhang, think about it. I am indebted to Hall leader Shui for promoting me. If I do anything to him, it will be unjust. Don't you think so? Vice Hall leader Zhang, since I don't want to betray Hall leader Shui now, I naturally won't betray you in the future. Please believe me. What I said is true. Please give me a chance. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sighed. Yuan Weiqing, you don't want to betray Hall leader Shui. Do you want to wait for the future to avenge him? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing's face suddenly changed. He hurriedly waved his hand and said in a trembling voice. Vice Hall leader Zhang, how is that possible? I won't do that kind of thing. After hearing the two's words, LV Hushan, who had been standing aside silently, suddenly said, Yuan Weiqing, I finally understand. I advised you so much, but you refused to do it. It turns out that you want to avenge Hall leader Shui. I really didn't expect that. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He waved his hand vigorously at LV Hushan. LV Hushan, you can't talk nonsense. How could such a thing happen? The reason why I didn't do it is because I am indebted to Hall leader Shui for promoting me. I really can't bear to do it. LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you are indebted to Hall leader Shui for promoting you, so you want to wait for the future to avenge him. Is that right? Yuan Weiqing was so scared that his face turned pale. LV Hushan, don't talk about it. This is not true. I don't think so. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said loudly, Vice Hall leader Zhang, I am not that kind of person. I just feel indebted to Hall leader Shui, so I don't want to do it. Zhang Chunren sighed. Yuan Weiqing, you don't want to do it. Is it because I am not as good as Hall leader Shui? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. How can it be? Vice Hall leader Zhang is powerful in martial arts and is full of schemes. He is definitely a rare talent. Chapter 780. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yuan Weiqing, since you think I'm stronger than Hall Leader Shui, why don't you listen to me and kill him? Hearing this question, Yuan Weiqing suddenly froze. LV Hushan sneered and said, Yuan Weiqing, now I understand why you didn't want to leave. It turns out that you want to save Hall Master Shui, right? Yuan Weiqing turned to look at LV Hushan and gritted his teeth. LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. I've lost my martial arts, how can I think like that? LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you mean that you've lost your martial arts and can't do it. But if you still have your martial arts, you'll definitely save Hall Leader Shui, right? Yuan Weiqing shook his head hard. LV Hushan, you're wrong. Why would I think like that? Why would I save Hall Leader Shui? You're lying, why? Haha, LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, what else could it be? You said it yourself that Hall Master Shui had promoted you, so you'll never forget it and want to repay him. Right now, the best way to repay Hall Master Shui is to rescue him. But now that you have lost your martial arts, you have no way to do that. So you can only watch from the sidelines, looking for an opportunity to repay Hall Master Shui's kindness to you. Yuan Weiqing, am I right? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, LV Hushan, don't say any more. How could I do something like that? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's denial, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, if you want me to believe you, then go and kill him. Otherwise, this is what you want to do. You want to save Hall Master Shui. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. For a moment, he couldn't speak. LV Hushan sneered. How about it, Yuan Weiqing? You won't speak this time, right? Now, I'm sure that you want to save Hall Master Shui and repay his kindness to you, right? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, I think you should stop denying it. Since we've already discovered your purpose, there's no point in you continuing to deny it. Don't you agree? I think you'd better admit it quickly and leave obediently. You can be considered a man. Otherwise, Yuan Weiqing glared fiercely at LV Hushan, gritted his teeth and asked, LV Hushan, could it be that I didn't want to kill Hall Master Shui because I wanted to save him? LV Hushan nodded. Of course. Otherwise, why would you refuse to leave when I tried to chase you away? Even when you secretly hid in the forest, you refused to leave. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing, Yuan Weiqing, I think you hid in the forest because you wanted to wait for an opportunity to save Hall Master Shui. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hesitated for a moment, gritted his teeth, and said in a low voice, LV Hushan, I'll tell you the truth. The reason I stayed in the forest was to see if I could get any benefit. It wasn't like what you said, that I hid in the forest to save Hall Master Shui. Benefits? Hearing these two words, LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, don't lie to me. You want to be an ordinary person. Why would you care about some benefits? At this point, LV Hushan paused and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. He sneered and continued, Yuan Weiqing, don't tell me that what you said just now was a lie. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. Yes, I admit that what I said just now was a lie. I hid in the forest to see if I could get any benefit. After saying these words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said loudly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, please give me another chance. Except for this matter, I will promise you anything. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. He suddenly pointed at LV Hushan and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, since you are willing to do anything for me, fine. Will you kill LV Hushan for me? As soon as Zhang Chunren said this, Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan were shocked at the same time. LV Hushan calmed down and asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, do you want him to kill me? Zhang Chunren ignored LV Hushan's words. He still stared at Yuan Weiqing and asked slowly, Yuan Weiqing, are you willing? Are you willing to kill LV Hushan for me? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was so scared that he took a few steps back and distanced himself from Yuan Weiqing. After that, he said in a quivering voice, Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, you can't do that. I'm here to help you. Zhang Chunren saw that Yuan Weiqing still didn't speak. He couldn't help but frown and ask loudly. Yuan Weiqing, what do you mean? Why don't you answer my question? Are you willing or not? At this moment, Yuan Weiqing's heart was in a mess. He didn't know what Zhang Chunren meant. Zhang Chunren wanted him to kill LV Hushan. Was he testing him, or did he really want to kill LV Hushan? He had no enmity with LV Hushan. Why would he want to kill him? However, he had just said that he wanted Zhang Chunren to give him another chance. However, he never expected that this chance would actually be to kill LV Hushan. If he still had his martial arts, Yuan Weiqing might really do it. However, now that he had lost his martial arts, how could he do it? Yuan Weiqing was sure that with his remaining martial arts, he was definitely not LV Hushan's opponent. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, what you said can't be true, right? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you are teasing me, right? In fact, you just want to test me. You don't really want me to kill LV Hushan, right? After asking this sentence, Yuan Weiqing stared at Zhang Chunren closely, hoping that he would say that he was actually lying to him. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, don't think too much. I am just asking you. Didn't you say that you are willing to do anything for me? Now I want you to kill LV Hushan. Are you willing to do it? Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said hesitantly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I don't know. Hearing this answer, Zhang Chunren immediately sneered. Yuan Weiqing, just now you said that you are willing to do anything for me. Why are you not willing to do it now? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, LV Hushan is one of us. Of course you are not willing to kill him. You are testing me, right? Zhang Chunren nodded. Yuan Weiqing, you are right. I am testing you. Didn't you say that you are willing to do anything for me except killing Hall Master Shui? I want you to kill LV Hushan, it should be outside of that matter. Yuan Weiqing, I want to test you now. Are you willing to do it or not? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing stood there in a daze. After a while, he turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a wry smile, LV Hushan, you. Before Yuan Weiqing finished his words, he was interrupted by LV Hushan, who was sweating profusely. Yuan Weiqing, don't come over. If you dare to attack me, don't blame me for being rude. Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren, sighed and said with a wry smile, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you know that I have lost my martial arts. Even if you want me to kill LV Hushan, I can't do it. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sighed and said slowly, Hall Master Shui, you mean that you can't defeat LV Hushan, so you can't kill him, right? Hearing these words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded. Yes, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, what you said is really right. My martial arts have been abolished. I am indeed not LV Hushan's opponent, so I can't do this. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, please use other things to test me. After LV Hushan heard these words, he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, but his eyes were fixed on Zhang Chunren. He wanted to hear what he had to say. After listening to Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded. Yuan Weiqing, with your current martial arts, you really can't defeat LV Hushan. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words, he continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, I asked you to do something, but you made excuses. Although you can't defeat LV Hushan, can't you think of a way? If you can't think of any way, then what's the use of having you? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yuan Weiqing's face suddenly changed. He subconsciously turned his head to look at LV Hushan, but found that LV Hushan's face had turned pale. After a while, Yuan Weiqing recovered and said in a trembling voice, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, LV Hushan is one of us. I think it's better to forget it. If you want to test." Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. He turned his head and looked around. His eyes stopped on Yi Tianhua and hurriedly said, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, how about I kill Yi Tianhua? What do you think?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a sneer, "Yuan Weiqing, if you want to kill Yi Tianhua, I promise you, as long as you kill Yi Tianhua, you will have completed my test for you." Hearing that he didn't have to kill Hall Master Shui and LV Hushan, Yuan Weiqing was overjoyed and hurriedly nodded, "Okay, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I will kill Yi Tianhua now." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sighed, "Yuan Weiqing, do you really dare to do this?" Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. He looked at Zhang Chunren in a daze but didn't say anything. Zhang Chunren didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to speak and sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, do you know who Yi Tianhua is?" Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question, he continued. "Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua is the boss of the South County Shadow Alliance. If you kill him, do you know what the consequences will be?" After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yuan Weiqing's expression suddenly changed. Only then did he remember Yi Tianhua's identity. If the people of the South County Shadow Alliance knew that he had killed Yi Tianhua, then Yuan Weiqing was sure that everyone in the South County Shadow Alliance would come after him. At that time, would he be able to hide? The answer was no. Yuan Weiqing had already lost his martial arts. If the South County Shadow Alliance really came to find him, he definitely wouldn't be able to hide. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing secretly regretted making such a suggestion. If he had said that he would kill someone else, there wouldn't be such trouble. Zhang Chunren sighed, "Yuan Weiqing, if you're willing to kill Yi Tianhua, then go ahead." Yuan Weiqing didn't move because he knew that if he really killed Yi Tianhua, even if he didn't lose his martial arts, he wouldn't be able to escape being found by the South County Shadow Alliance. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, can you change to someone else? I'll kill someone else as a test for you?" Zhang Chunren shook his head and sighed, "Yuan Weiqing, what should I say to you? I asked you to kill Hall Master Shui for me, but you didn't agree. You said that Hall Master Shui was kind to you, so you couldn't bear to kill him. I asked you to kill LV Hushan, but you said that your martial arts were not as good as LV Hushan's, so you couldn't do it. Then you said that you were going to kill Yi Tianhua, but you went back on your word. Yuan Weiqing, you've really disappointed me. I think we should forget about the test. You should leave quickly." After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. "Zhang Chunren, it's not that I don't want to agree, but if I kill Yi Tianhua and the people from the Shadow Alliance find me, then everything will be over. Vice Hall Master Zhang, give me another chance. I'll definitely do it." Zhang Chunren sighed, "Yuan Weiqing, how can I trust you? You refused to do any of the 3 things I asked you to do, and now you want me to give you another chance." Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a sneer, "Yuan Weiqing, if you were me, would you give me another chance?" After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. Zhang Chunren sneered and said, "Yuan Weiqing, you've really disappointed me. I originally wanted to train you well and pay a huge price to let you stand up again. But look at yourself, what have you done?" Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer, he continued. Yuan Weiqing, in order to catch Tianhua, I asked you to stand in front. Ah no, you asked to stand in front. Yuan Weiqing, but what did you do? At the crucial moment you chose to run away? Chapter 781. Zhang Chunren glared fiercely at Yuan Weiqing and snapped, Yuan Weiqing, let me ask you. I trusted you so much, but you let me down. I gave you another chance, but you still let me down. Yuan Weiqing, if you were me, what would you do? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing secretly sighed in his heart. He knew that what he did was indeed inappropriate. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly whispered, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I was wrong just now. I shouldn't have dodged. I should have fought with Tianhua to the end. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this matter has already happened. Please forgive me this time and give me another chance. I promise I won't let you down. Please believe me this time. Zhang Chunren nodded and pointed at Xue Zhijing in the distance. Go, this is the chance I'm giving you. Yuan Weiqing looked at Zhang Chunren's finger and saw the unconscious Xue Zhijing. Yuan Weiqing's heart quivered and he hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I mean, except for this, I will listen to you. I promise to do it for you. Zhang Chunren nodded and suddenly turned to point at LV Hushan. He sneered and said, Yuan Weiqing, go and kill LV Hushan now. Yuan Weiqing was suddenly startled and waved his hand again and again. Vice Hall Master Zhang, didn't I just say that I can't beat LV Hushan? Naturally, I have no way to deal with him. Let's do something else. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, the reason why you don't do anything to LV Hushan is because you have lost your martial arts. You can't beat him, right? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly overjoyed and hurriedly nodded. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you are right. I have lost my martial arts. Even if I want to listen to your orders, I can't beat LV Hushan. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, it's time to test you. You heard Yuan Weiqing's words just now. Because he lost his martial arts, he is not your opponent. This is the reason why he did not listen to my orders. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question. He sneered and continued to speak. LV Hushan, are you willing to listen to my orders? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. Yes, of course I will follow your order. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, LV Hushan, in that case, I order you to stand still and not fight back when Yuan Weiqing attacks you. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chunren's order, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed and he was stunned. After a while, he asked in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, you mean, I can't fight back when Yuan Weiqing attacks me? Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a smile, LV Hushan, didn't you say that you will listen to my orders? This order is my test for you. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan's cold sweat suddenly dripped down from his forehead. He subconsciously turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. At this moment, Yuan Weiqing was already stunned. His mind was blank and he didn't know what to think. Seeing the expressions of the two, Zhang Chunren clapped his hands and said with a smile, Now, I will give you two a chance. It can be considered a test. If you pass the test, then I will focus on training you. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused and continued, As for what to do, it depends on you. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan suddenly shouted, Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can I do this? If I stand still, Yuan Weiqing will definitely kill me. Zhang Chunren smiled and waved his hand. LV Hushan, don't worry. This is my test for you. If you can do it, I will train you. If you can't, leave here obediently. I don't want to see him again. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this is not fair. Why should I stand still? Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused for a moment, but then, he continued without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer his words. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I think it's better if I do it. Let Yuan Weiqing stand still. I promise to complete the task. What do you think? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, do you mean that you don't want to listen to my orders? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly awakened and hurriedly said, LV Hushan, since this is Vice Hall Master Zhang's order, we should obey it. You're talking nonsense. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan suddenly became angry and shouted sternly, Yuan Weiqing, you're saying that you want to obey Vice Hall Master Zhang's orders. But just now, Vice Hall Master Zhang asked you to kill Hall Master Shui. Why didn't you do it? Yuan Weiqing's face changed and he hurriedly said, just now is just now. Vice Hall Master Zhang didn't blame me for what happened just now. Why do you blame me? LV Hushan turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and said quickly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, let me kill Yuan Weiqing. Vice Hall Master Zhang, Yuan Weiqing has lost his martial arts and is useless. But I'm different. I still have my martial arts and I can do a lot of things for you in the future. Don't you think so? Zhang Chunren shook his head and said with a smile, LV Hushan, don't be nervous. I'm testing Yuan Weiqing. Do you understand? LV Hushan's face turned pale and he hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can you do this? Although you're testing him, he's going to attack me. If I can't move when he attacks me, I'll definitely be killed by him. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I'm in danger. Hearing LV Hushan's explanation, Zhang Chuanren's face suddenly became cold. LV Hushan, don't you want to listen to my orders? This, LV Hushan was stunned and hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, this is different. If you want me to fight with others, I will definitely not frown. But you want me to stand here and let Yuan Weiqing kill me. How can I do this? Zhang Chunren frowned. LV Hushan, do you mean that you don't want to obey my orders? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, LV Hushan, now, Vice Hall Master Zhang is the master of the secret Thunder sect in the South County. How can you not obey his orders? LV Hushan looked at Yuan Weiqing angrily. Yuan Weiqing, if you want, you can do this. I'll attack you. You just stand there and don't move, okay? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. Sure, why not? As long as Vice Hall Master Zhang gives the order, I will definitely not move. Do you believe it? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was overjoyed. He hurriedly turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, did you hear that? Yuan Weiqing is willing to stand there and not move. I think it's better for me to attack him. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing secretly regretted. He just said it accidentally and it was not his real thoughts. However, since he had already said it, he could only look at Zhang Chunren and pray in his heart that Vice Hall Master Zhang would not listen to him. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, is what you just said true? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words, he continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, since you ask so, then I will satisfy you. In a while, let LV Hushan attack you. You can't move or fight back, understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was so regretful that his intestines turned green. He stood there, speechless. If he agreed to Zhang Chunren's request and stood there without moving, Yuan Weiqing was sure that LV Hushan would definitely kill him. However, if he moved, although LV Hushan could not kill him, Zhang Chunren's test for him would fail. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing secretly hated himself for being so talkative. Why did he say that sentence? Seeing LV Hushan's smirk, Yuan Weiqing's heart turned cold. A chill surged from the bottom of his heart and spread to his whole body in an instant, making him feel cold all over. After LV Hushan heard Zhang Chuanren's words, he was in a good mood. He stared at Yuan Weiqing and asked loudly, "Yuan Weiqing, are you ready? I'm going to make a move." After saying this, LV Hushan took a step forward and walked towards Yuan Weiqing. Seeing LV Hushan getting closer and closer, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that more and more cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He hurriedly shouted, "LV Hushan, wait a minute." After shouting this sentence, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said in a trembling voice, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I regret it. Let me attack LV Hushan. What do you think?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. "Yuan Weiqing, originally, I thought that you had lost your martial arts and let you attack LV Hushan. However, you took the initiative to ask LV Hushan to attack you. Now, I have agreed to your request. Are you still not satisfied?" Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shook his head and said with a forced smile, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I have lost my martial arts. If LV Hushan attacks me, I won't be able to withstand 2 moves. Maybe I won't even be able to withstand 1 move. There is nothing to see. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, if I attack LV Hushan with his martial arts, he will definitely be able to withstand 2 moves. Isn't that better?" Zhang Chunren shook his head and said with a smile, "Yuan Weiqing, this is not a matter of looking good or not. This is a test for the 2 of you. I want to see who is the most obedient. Yuan Weiqing, you'd better stand properly now. LV Hushan is coming over. You can't move. If you move, you'll fail my test." Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yuan Weiqing anxiously waved his hand and begged, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, this is too dangerous. Let's change the test." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, do you think this is a game? Do you think you can do whatever you want? Yuan Weiqing, you better stand there obediently. Otherwise, you will leave quickly. Do you understand?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a sneer, "Yuan Weiqing, this is my final test for you. If you pass this test, I will help you in the future. But if you can't even pass this test, then don't blame me." After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, LV Hushan immediately said loudly, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, can I start now?" "No." As soon as LV Hushan's voice fell, before Zhang Chunren could speak, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shouted, "I don't agree. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, let's change the test. Otherwise, let me attack LV Hushan. I promise I can do it. I will never let you down." LV Hushan sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, it's too late. Now I am the one attacking you. If you want to attack me, you can talk about it after you pass this test." Speaking of this, LV Hushan's tone paused. He snorted and continued, "But I guess you won't be able to escape this test." Listening to LV Hushan's snort, Yuan Weiqing understood in his heart that if LV Hushan really attacked him, needless to say, he wouldn't be able to block LV Hushan's attack with his current martial arts. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, give me another chance. I promise I won't let you down. Please, give me another chance." Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head, "Yuan Weiqing, now I will give you 3 options. First, stand here and don't move. Second, kill Hall Master Xue for me. Third, get out of here immediately." Zhang Chunren turned his head and stared at Yuan Weiqing with a burning gaze. He asked word by word, "Yuan Weiqing, this is your last chance. Do you understand?" After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly taken aback. He hurriedly said, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, let's change to another path. I can't do these 3 options." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. Yuan Weiqing, then tell me, other than these three options, what else can you do for me? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly stunned. He thought carefully in his heart. What can I do? After thinking for a while, Yuan Weiqing sighed secretly. If I didn't lose my martial arts, I could still do something. But now that I have lost my martial arts, I am just an ordinary person. What can I do? Zhang Chunren saw that Yuan Weiqing didn't speak and sighed. Yuan Weiqing, think clearly. Other than this matter, you can't do anything for me. Yuan Weiqing, these three options are still the same. Hurry up and choose one. Don't make me lose my patience. Chapter 782. Yuan Weiqing suddenly turned to look at LV Hushan and said loudly, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, let me attack LV Hushan? LV Hushan was shocked. Don't even think about it. Yuan Weiqing cupped his hands towards Zhang Chunren and said with shame, Vice Hall Master Zhang, at the beginning, you told me to attack LV Hushan, but I disobeyed your order. Now, I have decided to follow your order. Vice Hall Master Zhang, can you give me a chance? Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and asked with a smile, LV Hushan, did you hear Yuan Weiqing's words? Do you agree? LV Hushan sneered. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, Yuan Weiqing took the initiative to abandon the agreement and asked me to attack him. This is what he said. Why should I abandon it? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused and continued, Yuan Weiqing, are you ready? I'm going to start. Yuan Weiqing was scared and took a step back, saying loudly, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, let me do it, please. Zhang Chunren waved his hand and stopped LV Hushan. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said in a deep voice, Yuan Weiqing, do you want to kill Hall Leader Shui or be killed by LV Hushan? It's your choice. Looking at LV Hushan, who was walking toward him step by step, Yuan Weiqing suddenly gritted his teeth. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, I'll kill Hall Leader Shui. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you really agree? Yuan Weiqing wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and sighed. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, I hope that after I kill Hall Leader Shui, you can keep your promise and help me stand up again. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. Yuan Weiqing, did I say that? Why don't I remember? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, you said it yourself. How can you forget it? Zhang Chunren sneered. Yuan Weiqing, when I said those words, I said them to my partner. But how can a runaway like you be qualified to be my partner? Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing's reply and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, you only have two options now. Either you kill Hall Master Shui, or you wait here for LV Hushan to kill you. Do you understand? Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. Then I choose to leave? Impossible. Zhang Chunren sneered. Yuan Weiqing, I gave you a chance just now, but you didn't want it. Now you have no chance. You only have two choices. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing felt a chill in his heart. He hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I quit. I really quit. As long as you let me go, I will immediately leave this place. I will not hinder you. Zhang Chunren shook his head and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, I gave you too many chances, but you didn't want them all. Now I have no patience. Hurry up and choose one of these two choices. Yuan Weiqing was so scared that his face turned pale. He suddenly realized that even if he killed Hall Master Shui now, he wouldn't get any benefits. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, no, let me go. I promise this will be the last time. Zhang Chunren turned his head and looked at LV Hushan. He sneered, LV Hushan, since Yuan Weiqing doesn't dare to do it, hurry up and do it. Hearing Zhang Chunren's order, LV Hushan immediately responded. He turned his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing with a cold smile on his face. LV Hushan, don't come over. Zhang Chunren waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, I'll give you one last chance. Will you kill Hall Master Shui? Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. Vice Hall Master Zhang, what about our starting conditions? Zhang Chunren waved his hand and sneered. No, nothing. If you kill Hall Master Shui now, you can at least save yourself. But if you don't do it, Hall Master Shui will still be killed, and you will also be killed by LV Hushan. Do you understand? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he took a few steps back. He said in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't tell me you won't even give me a chance? Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I've given you so many chances, but you didn't take them. Don't blame me. Zhang Chunren turned his head and looked at LV Hushan. He shouted, LV Hushan, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and do it. LV Hushan immediately responded and was about to do it. Yuan Weiqing was so scared that his forehead was covered with cold sweat. He waved his hand again and again. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I'll do it. I'll do it, okay? Please don't do it. Zhang Chunren waved his hand and stopped LV Hushan. He turned his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing. He sneered and said, Yuan Weiqing, since you want to do it, then hurry up and do it. I didn't stop you. Yuan Weiqing felt a chill in his heart. At this moment, he understood that it was no longer possible for him to gain any benefits from this. Now, if he were to kill Hall Master Shui, he would only be able to protect himself. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing secretly regretted. Why did he come back? Just now, he was asked to leave, so he should leave quickly. How could he be involved in this kind of thing? However, it was useless to regret. Yuan Weiqing frowned and thought quickly in his heart. How to solve this problem? Zhang Chunren saw that Yuan Weiqing was unwilling to do it. He urged, Yuan Weiqing, since you want to do it, hurry up and do it. What are you waiting for? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. His eyes could not help but look around. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I think that Hall Master Shui's matter is a small matter. It's more important to solve Yi Tianhua's matter first. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry about this. Just do it and get rid of Hall Master Shui. This is none of your business. Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, Yi Tianhua's martial arts are strong. Although I injured him just now, it has been delayed for so long. If his martial arts recover a little, wouldn't that be bad? Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren's reply and continued to speak. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, although your martial arts are strong, compared to Yi Tianhua, I'm afraid that you are still a far cry. If he recovers from his injury, I'm afraid that you won't be his opponent. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren's gaze froze. He turned to look at Yi Tianhua and thought to himself that he had been careless. Although he had injured Yi Tianhua, if he really recovered from his injury, he was afraid that he would not be his opponent. Yi Tianhua's martial arts were strong. Even if he was seriously injured, he would definitely recover faster than others. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, since you reminded me, fine. I'll give you another chance. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing, Yuan Weiqing, go and cripple Yi Tianhua now. Take revenge for what he did to you just now. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang's martial arts are strong. If you let me go, I'm afraid that I won't be his opponent. Trash. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunren scolded angrily, Yuan Weiqing, now that Yi Tianhua is seriously injured, what are you afraid of? Hurry up and go take a look. Hearing Zhang Chunren's determined tone, Yuan Weiqing sighed in his heart. He knew that if he did not go, He was afraid that Zhang Chunren would let LV Hushan deal with him again. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing could only grit his teeth and slowly walk towards Yi Tianhua. Just as Yuan Weiqing was about to reach Yi Tianhua's side, he suddenly heard a sneer. Yi Tianhua actually slowly sat up from the ground. "Yuan Weiqing, do you want to fight me?" Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and subconsciously turned to run. Seeing that Yi Tianhua actually sat up, Zhang Chunren was shocked. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said loudly, "Yuan Weiqing, don't be afraid. He's already seriously injured. It's impossible for him to recover so quickly. Hurry up and go, do you understand?" At this moment, Yuan Weiqing had already run to Zhang Chunren's side. After hearing these words, his face immediately changed and he said in a trembling voice, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I can't. Since Yi Tianhua can sit up, it means that his martial arts have already recovered. With my martial arts, I'm afraid I'll be killed before I even get close." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, are you afraid?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's greeting, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said in a trembling voice, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I'm not afraid. But now that I've lost my martial arts, I'm definitely not Yi Tianhua's opponent." Zhang Chunren frowned. "Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua is already seriously injured. What are you afraid of? Hurry up and go take a look. Don't forget, this is my test for you." Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. "Okay, then I'll go take a look." After saying this, Yuan Weiqing stepped forward and walked towards Yi Tianhua again. Just as he was about to reach Yi Tianhua sneered again and asked loudly, "Yuan Weiqing, do you really dare to come over?" After saying this, Yi Tianhua looked around and picked up the sword that had fallen to the side. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and sighed, "Yuan Weiqing, come over. I'll give you a quick death." Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing suddenly trembled in fear and stopped in his tracks. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said in a trembling voice, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, look, although Yi Tianhua looked fine, Zhang Chunren was actually not afraid. This was because even if Yi Tianhua had recovered from some of his injuries, he would not be afraid. Yuan Weiqing, what are you waiting for? He's trying to scare you. Hurry up and go over." After seeing this scene, LV Hushan knew that if Yuan Weiqing did not go over, he would probably be forced to go. Thinking of this, he hurriedly shouted, "Yuan Weiqing, don't be afraid. Even if Yi Tianhua's martial arts are strong, he won't be able to recover much of his strength in such a short time." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yi Tianhua sighed, "LV Hushan, since you said that I haven't recovered from my injuries, why don't you come over and let Yuan Weiqing come over?" Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for LV Hushan to reply. He laughed coldly and continued to speak without waiting for LV Hushan's reply. "LV Hushan, I understand. You don't dare to come over, so you let Yuan Weiqing come over, right?" After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed and he hurriedly said, "Yuan Weiqing, don't listen to him. He's just trying to scare you. If he recovered his martial arts, he would have gotten up and killed you long ago. Why would he talk to you over there?" After hearing LV Hushan's explanation, Yuan Weiqing was relieved. Just as he was about to walk forward again, he heard Yi Tianhua speak again. "LV Hushan, I know that you want Yuan Weiqing to exhaust my recovered martial arts. After I use the last of my martial arts to kill Yuan Weiqing, you'll come and take advantage of it, right?" Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but stop again. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked in a trembling voice, "LV Hushan, are you really?" Before Yuan Weiqing could finish his words, LV Hushan waved his hand and interrupted him. "Yuan Weiqing, don't listen to him. His martial arts hasn't recovered. Otherwise, why would he say that?" LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing, "Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua is obviously trying to stall for time. Can't you see it? Yuan Weiqing, hurry up and go over. If you delay for too long and Yi Tianhua really recovers his martial arts, then you'll be in trouble. As soon as LV Hushan finished speaking, Yi Tianhua sneered. LV Hushan, do you really think that you can defeat me with your martial arts? After saying this, Yi Tianhua slowly stood up from the ground and looked at Yuan Weiqing coldly. Yuan Weiqing, come over. I'll wait for you here. Seeing that Yi Tianhua actually stood up, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he immediately retreated. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, this is bad. Yi Tianhua's martial arts has really recovered. What should I do? Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yuan Weiqing, who had been pushed to his side, and sighed. Yuan Weiqing, ever since you were injured, I've wanted to help you stand up again. However, everything you've done has really disappointed me. Just now, when you were fighting with Yi Tianhua, you ran faster than anyone else. Now, when you saw Yi Tianhua stand up, you ran away in fear. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. Who are you doing this to? Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, Deputy Hall Master Zhang is right. Although Deputy Hall Master Zhang wants to help you, you're too disappointing. As soon as you see danger ahead, you run away. You have no sense of responsibility at all. With you like this, who would want to help you? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing, Yuan Weiqing, let's hurry up and go over. Chapter 783. LV Hushan continued, Yuan Weiqing, you'd better listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang and go take a look. If you disappoint Vice Hall Master Zhang again, no one will be able to save you. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was furious. LV Hushan, what are you talking about? I've already lost my martial arts. What if Yi Tianhua attacks me? LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. Yi Tianhua may have stood up, but he hasn't recovered his martial arts. You just have to be brave and go over. There won't be a problem. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and turned his head to look at Yi Tianhua, only to see Yi Tianhua looking at him with a cold smile. He was shocked and couldn't help but take a few steps back before speaking in a trembling voice. LV Hushan, you lied to me. Yi Tianhua has already recovered. How can you say that he hasn't? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and picked up a stone from the ground. With a light flick of his finger, the stone flew out like lightning and hit Yi Tianhua. Seeing the stone slide off Yi Tianhua's body, Yuan Weiqing was overjoyed. Yi Tianhua really hasn't recovered. That's great, that's great. If Yi Tianhua had recovered his martial arts, Zhang Chuanren's stone wouldn't have hit him. Yi Tianhua's martial arts were as high as a wall. Even if he didn't block it, he could have easily shaken the small stone away with his internal energy. However, the stone didn't shake off the stone and instead landed on his body. This meant that Yi Tianhua's martial arts hadn't recovered. Understanding this, Yuan Weiqing was emboldened. He turned to LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, since Vice Hall Master Zhang asked me to go over, I'll go take a look. Haha. As Yuan Weiqing spoke, he swaggered towards Yi Tianhua. Before Yuan Weiqing got close, he saw Yi Tianhua slowly raise the sword in his hand and look at him with a cold smile. Seeing Yi Tianhua so calm, Yuan Weiqing was taken aback. He immediately stopped and looked at Yi Tianhua. He asked tentatively, Yi Tianhua, have you recovered your martial arts? Yi Tianhua shook his head. No. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Yuan Weiqing was overjoyed. Just as he was about to step forward again, he suddenly had a thought. If Yi Tianhua's martial arts had not recovered, then how could he stand up? Since he stood up, didn't that mean that even if his martial arts had not fully recovered, he could at least wield the long sword in his hand? Yi Tianhua's swordsmanship was superb. Even if he did not have any internal energy, it would not take much effort to deal with him. Furthermore, He did not have much martial arts left. If he rushed forward, he might really be killed by Tianhua. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing did not dare to leave. He asked again, Tianhua, have you really not recovered your martial arts? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua sighed. Yuan Weiqing, why do you have to do this? Since you want to come, why ask? If you don't want to come over, you can go back. I'm not stopping you. Hearing Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was even more hesitant. If Tianhua dared to say it so casually, then he must have the ability to do so. Yuan Weiqing stood there awkwardly. He wanted to walk forward, but he did not dare to. He wanted to retreat, but he did not have the face to do so. For a moment, he stood there in a daze, not daring to speak or move. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing was neither moving forward nor retreating, LV Hushan could not help but urge, Yuan Weiqing, what do you want? Hurry up and go. Can't you see that Vice Hall Master Zhang is waiting anxiously? Before Yuan Weiqing could reply, Tianhua, who was standing opposite of LV Hushan, suddenly said, Yuan Weiqing, why do you have to do this? Even if my martial arts have recovered, you are definitely not my match. Rather than this, why don't you hurry up and go back? Yuan Weiqing, we have no enmity between us. I don't understand why you are doing this. At this point, Tianhua turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Zhang Chunren, I know that your son was killed and you are upset. However, I have already promised you that I will find out the reason for this matter. Why do you have to force me? Hearing Tianhua's question, Zhang Chunren nodded. Tianhua, I have already said that as long as you agree to my conditions, our matter will naturally be over. However, you are unwilling to agree. We can only be heavy-handed. Tianhua turned his head to look at Shui Zhijing in the distance and frowned. Zhang Chunren, Hall Master Shui is seriously injured. Don't you want to go over and take a look? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, don't worry about other people's matters. You should worry about your own matters first. Do you know that Yuan Weiqing wants to go over and kill you? Tianhua turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and smiled faintly. I believe that Yuan Weiqing won't do that, right? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment, then he sneered. Tianhua, you don't have to say anything nice. To tell you the truth, if you don't agree to our conditions, I'll really kill you today. Tianhua nodded and turned to look at Zhang Chunren. He smiled and said, Zhang Chunren, we don't have much enmity between us, and you should know very well how harsh your conditions are. If it's possible, why don't we discuss it calmly and find a way to solve it? At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Zhang Chunren to reply and continued to speak. Zhang Chunren, you should stop now. Don't wait until the situation is irreversible. Then, it will be too late. When that time comes, if it causes a fight between our two factions, it will not benefit either of us. Don't you understand? Zhang Chunren sighed. Tianhua, I understand. However, you are too much of a bully and refuse to agree to my conditions. That is why there is a glutton today. If you had agreed to my conditions, this would not have happened. Tianhua gritted his teeth. Zhang Chunren, if it were you, would you have agreed to those conditions? Hearing Tianhua's question, Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, if I did such a thing, I would definitely agree. Although I have done something wrong, I have to find a way to make up for it. But you just want to let this matter go and do not want to compensate me. How can I agree? Tianhua, no matter what, I must make you agree to my conditions today. Hearing this, Tianhua frowned. Zhang Chunren, the conditions you asked me to agree to just now are too harsh. I can't agree to you. However, if you let us go now, we can discuss and try to satisfy you. What do you think? Hearing Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded and stretched out a finger as he slowly said, Tianhua, 10 million gold coins, and 5 years of free information. If you agree, I'll let you go immediately. What do you think? 10 million gold coins, 5 years of free information? Tianhua looked at Zhang Chunren in shock. Zhang Chunren, are you crazy? Do you know how much 10 million gold coins is? Do you know how much loss 5 years of free information will bring to our South County Shadow Alliance? Seeing Tianhua's shocked expression, Zhang Chunren nodded in satisfaction. Tianhua, of course I know. Is this my condition? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Tianhua to answer him and continued speaking. Tianhua, don't worry. As long as you agree to these 2 conditions, I will let you go immediately. I will not go back on my words. Ha! Tianhua turned around and looked at Zhang Chunren. Zhang Chunren, you must be kidding. Don't you know how much 10 million gold coins are? Even your Tanlei sect in the South Prefecture might not have so many gold coins. Now you want me to take out 10 million gold coins alone? Is it possible? Zhang Chunren nodded. Hearing Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren shook his head and sneered. Tianhua, let me tell you, you don't have the conditions to bargain with me now. I just want 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. If you want to go back, then use these 2 conditions in exchange. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Tianhua gritted his teeth and looked at Zhang Chunren. Zhang Chunren, are you really not afraid of causing a fight between the 2 gangs? Zhang Chunren shook his head and sneered. Tianhua, a fight between 2 gangs? You really know how to joke. Why do I not understand why it would cause a fight between 2 gangs? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Tianhua to answer him. He sneered and continued speaking. Tianhua, let me tell you the truth. Even if I kill you now, nothing will happen. Do you think you can cause a fight between the 2 gangs? Are you dreaming? If you are killed by me here, who will know? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua gritted his teeth and sneered. Zhang Chunren, don't be too proud. If we don't go back here, the people of the South County Shadow Alliance will know. At that time, they will definitely find your South County Secret Thunder sect and take revenge for us. Zhang Chunren, do you think they will do nothing? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Tianhua, if they know that we did it, they will take revenge on us. However, if I don't admit it, what can they do to me? If they say that I did it, what evidence do they have? If there is no evidence, then I didn't do it. Do you understand? Since I didn't do it, why would the people of the South County Shadow Alliance take revenge on me? Tianhua, don't you think so? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly clapped his hands and laughed. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you're right. They don't have evidence, so how dare they say that we did it? Even if others know about this, they will probably think that the South County Shadow Alliance did something wrong. Haha. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Tianhua, I advise you to listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang's words and agree to our conditions. Then you may still have a chance to live. Otherwise, you will be in trouble today. Tianhua looked at the 3 people in front of him who were laughing wildly. He was shocked. His martial arts had not recovered and he could only barely stand up. If Yuan Weiqing really rushed over recklessly, he might be able to knock him down. Tianhua gritted his teeth. Zhang Chunren, if you want to earn gold coins, there are many ways. Why do you have to do this to me? Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, because you killed my son. Otherwise, why would I have a reason to do this to you? You? Tianhua pointed at Zhang Chunren and said loudly, Zhang Chunren, what do you mean by this? Could it be that your real purpose is to make me agree to your conditions? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Tianhua, since you've harmed my son, you'll have to pay a heavy price. I'm already being generous by asking for 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. If you're still not satisfied, I can add on 20 million gold coins and 10 years of free information. Do you agree? Tianhua widened his eyes and stared at Zhang Chunren. After a while, he shouted, Zhang Chunren, our two gangs have never interfered with each other. Why are you targeting us? Zhang Chunren sighed. Of course it's because you are unlucky. Is there any other reason? Haha, hearing Zhang Chunren's laughter, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly laughed. Tianhua, hurry up and agree to our Deputy Hall Master Zhang's conditions. Don't waste any more time, understand? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you think that I can be manipulated by you just because I am injured? Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Yuan Weiqing to reply. He scoffed and continued without waiting for Yuan Weiqing's reply. Yuan Weiqing, let me tell you, you are dreaming. If you really dare to attack, then we will all die together. No one will be able to escape. Seeing Tianhua's eyes gradually turning red, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he took a step back and said hurriedly, Tianhua, why do you have to do this? Just agree to our Deputy Hall Master Zhang's conditions and this matter will be over. Why take the risk? LV Hushan also hurriedly said, That's right, Tianhua. Although 10 million gold coins is a bit much, I believe that with your status you should be able to raise it. Why do you have to hurt yourself for 10 million gold coins? Hearing their words, Zhang Chunren nodded. Tianhua, you are right. Although 10 million gold coins is a lot, I think it is not enough compared to your people. Tianhua, as long as you agree to these two conditions of mine, don't worry, I will definitely let you go. What do you think? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua shook his head and sighed as he slowly said, Zhang Chunren, 10 million gold coins, that's easy for you to say, but where am I going to find the money for you? That's impossible. Chapter 784. Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I can't afford 10 million gold coins? Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, if you can't afford it, don't blame me for being impolite. LV Hushan also hurriedly said loudly. Tianhua, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Vice Hall Master Zhang will discuss it with you. If you agree, we won't hurt each other. But if you don't agree, Tianhua sneered. LV Hushan, if I don't agree, what can you do to me? Hearing Tianhua's words, LV Hushan was stunned and couldn't say anything for a moment. Although Tianhua was injured, even in this state, he was definitely not someone he could deal with. Zhang Chunren didn't panic and sneered. Tianhua, don't talk so much nonsense. I just want to ask you, do you agree to my conditions? Tianhua smiled bitterly. Zhang Chunren, this matter hasn't been clarified yet. How can I agree to your conditions? Speaking of this, Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer him. Zhang Chunren, I can agree. After I go back and investigate, if it's really our South County Shadow Alliance's fault, then I promise you, although I can't promise you 5 years of free information, I can definitely do it for 5 million gold coins. 5 million gold coins? Hearing Tianhua's number, Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, my condition is 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. Now you want to give me 5 million gold coins and you want to get away with it? Do you think that's possible? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua frowned. Zhang Chunren, are you still not satisfied with 5 million gold coins? Zhang Chunren shook his head. I'm not satisfied. My condition is 10 million gold coins, but you only give me 5 million gold coins. Do you think I'll be satisfied? Tianhua let out a sigh. Zhang Chunren, 5 million gold coins is already a lot. To tell you the truth, after all these years of savings, I only have 500,000 gold coins. I've already tried my best to promise you 5 million gold coins. If you're still not satisfied, then I have nothing else to say. Zhang Chunren nodded, turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, what are you waiting for? Hurry up! Yuan Weiqing was shocked when he heard Zhang Chuanren's words. He waved his hand and said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I can't do that. Tianhua has recovered his martial arts. If I go there, I won't be a match for him. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, didn't you hear Vice Hall Leader Zhang's words? Tianhua has not recovered his martial arts and is just trying to scare you. Don't hesitate, hurry up and go there. Tianhua won't do anything to you. After saying this, LV Hushan saw that Yuan Weiqing still did not dare to move, so he continued, Yuan Weiqing, what are you afraid of? Vice Hall Master Zhang and I are here. If Tianhua dares to attack you, we won't stand by and do nothing. Don't worry, you won't be in danger. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head and sighed. LV Hushan, even if you want to save me, if Tianhua really wants to attack me, I'm afraid it will be too late. LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, this is Vice Hall Master Zhang's final test for you. If you don't agree, I'm afraid you won't have another chance. Yuan Weiqing, if you lose this chance, I don't need to tell you what will happen to you. You should know very well, right? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing's whole body suddenly trembled. He suddenly remembered what he had just said and was shocked. If he did not listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang, he would not have another chance. In the past, Vice Hall Master Zhang would let him go, but looking at the situation just now, he was afraid that he would let LV Hushan kill him. Even if he wanted to leave, he would not have a chance. Most importantly, even if he left, where could he go? There was still a bandit leader, Boss Lu, waiting for him. Once he knew about his situation, he would definitely not let him go. Moreover, he had made it very clear that even if he hid, he would not be able to escape from the bandit leader, Boss Lu. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing raised his head and looked at Tianhua, only to see Tianhua smiling at him. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said loudly, Tianhua, you should hurry up and agree to Vice Hall Master Zhang's words. If you annoy us, you will definitely not have a good ending. Tianhua frowned. Yuan Weiqing, why are you doing this? You only have one arm now. It can be said that you do not have any martial arts left. If you want to come over, even if I only have 10% of my martial arts left, I can easily kill you. Why are you looking for trouble? After hearing Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing could not help but sigh in his heart. Although he admitted that what Tianhua said was true, there was no way out now. Yuan Weiqing let out a sigh. Tianhua, you're persuading me, and I also want to persuade you. As long as you agree to Deputy Head Zhang's condition, everyone will be fine. Why do you keep pestering him? Am I right? Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I already tried my best to agree to your conditions, but how can I agree to 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information? Yuan Weiqing laughed bitterly. Tianhua, if you agree, although it will be difficult, you will at least be able to leave safely. However, if you don't agree, I'm afraid that even if you want to leave, you won't be able to. Hearing this, Tianhua suddenly laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, you think that because I'm injured, I can't leave even if I want to, right? Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment, then he said, Tianhua, I know that your martial arts are strong, but I also know that your injuries are very serious. If you want to leave in this state, how can it be so easy? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Tianhua to reply and continued. Besides, even if you leave, don't tell me that you don't want your brothers? I can tell you clearly that if you dare to leave, your brothers won't have a good ending. Do you believe me? Hearing this, Tianhua gritted his teeth and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, if it wasn't for them, why would I be talking nonsense with you here? Yuan Weiqing nodded. Tianhua, since you understand this, I think you'd better agree quickly. Otherwise, even if you want to leave, you won't be able to take them away, right? Tianhua gritted his teeth. 5 million gold coins. If you agree to this price, then I'll agree. As for the 10 million gold coins you mentioned, I definitely can't do it. Speaking of this, Tianhua paused and sighed before continuing. Even with the South County Shadow Alliance, I'm afraid I can't do it. Yuan Weiqing, do you understand? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Tianhua, even your Shadow Alliance doesn't have so many gold coins. You can borrow. I believe that with your status, you can definitely borrow so many gold coins. Won't this matter be solved? Borrow? Tianhua suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you want me to borrow 10 million gold coins? Then let me ask you, how should I reply? Do I have to return these gold coins for the rest of my life? Yuan Weiqing nodded and said with a bitter smile. Although it won't be easy for you in the future, after all, you can take your brothers back, right? Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I can't do it. Even if I want to borrow so many gold coins, I might not be able to. Why don't you change the condition? Yuan Weiqing sighed. Tianhua, this is our Vice Hall Master Zhang's condition. I think that if you don't agree, his condition will increase. At that time, you won't be able to afford it. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua turned to look at Zhang Chunren and gritted his teeth. Zhang Chunren, aren't you afraid of causing a fight between our two gangs? Zhang Chunren shook his head. What's there to be afraid of? As long as you agree to my condition, I naturally have a way to not be afraid. Tianhua clenched his teeth. If I agree to your condition and go back on my word after you let us go, what can you do to me? Go back on your word? Zhang Chunren turned to look at Tianhua and sneered. Tianhua, even if you agree to my condition, I will leave behind enough evidence to let you go. How can I give you a chance to go back on your word? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua's heart suddenly moved. He knew that today's matter could not be settled peacefully. Thinking of this, Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, you win. I agree to your condition, can you let us go? Zhang Chunren nodded and turned to look at Lu Hushan. Lu Hushan, go capture those people and use them as hostages. After instructing Lu Hushan, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Tianhua and said with a smile, Tianhua, your martial arts are so high. If I let you go just like that, I really can't do anything to you if you go back on your word. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but immediately after, he did not wait for Tianhua to reply and continued. So before you leave, I have one more thing to do? What is it? Tianhua clenched his teeth and looked at Zhang Chunren, asking sternly, Zhang Chunren, what else haven't you done? Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a smile, Tianhua, before you leave, I want to cripple your martial arts so that even if you go back on your word in the future, you won't have the strength to deal with me. Cripple my martial arts? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua was stunned at first, then suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. Zhang Chunren, do you think you can cripple my martial arts? Zhang Chunren nodded. Tianhua, don't try to be brave. You're already heavily injured. If the three of us want to deal with you, it'll be a piece of cake. If you listen to me and let me cripple your martial arts, don't worry, I'll definitely let you go. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused and laughed coldly before continuing. Tianhua, if you don't listen to me, then don't blame me for using force, understand? Haha, Tianhua laughed and said, Zhang Chunren, I really didn't expect that after so many years in the martial arts world, there would be someone who wants to cripple my martial arts. What a joke, haha. Zhang Chunren frowned. Tianhua, do you think it's funny? Tianhua laughed coldly and asked, Zhang Chunren, do you think you have the strength to do this to me? Zhang Chunren nodded. Of course I do. If I didn't, how would I dare to say this? Tianhua let out a long breath and laughed. Zhang Chunren, if that's the case, then I won't agree to any of your conditions today. I'd like to see how you're going to cripple my martial arts. Zhang Chunren laughed coldly and asked, Tianhua, you don't believe me? Tianhua nodded. I don't believe you. Just as Tianhua finished speaking, Zhang Chunren's finger suddenly moved. A thunderbolt bullet that he had been hiding in his hand was flicked out and flew towards Tianhua at lightning speed. Although Tianhua had been talking to Zhang Chunren, he had also been paying attention to Zhang Chunren's movements. When he saw something flying towards him, he immediately roared, and the long sword in his hand flashed out like lightning and hit the flying object. Boom! After Tianhua's sword touched the object, it didn't bounce back. Instead, it exploded violently. Scorching hot air and a strong explosive force immediately rushed towards Tianhua. Tianhua only felt a strong pressure hit him in the face, like a giant hammer hitting him. Before he could react, he was already blown away by the force of the explosion. Ah! Tianhua screamed as he landed on the ground. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He wanted to get up, but he felt a strong pain in his body. For a moment, he couldn't get up. Zhang Chunren didn't chase after him. He sneered. Tianhua, do you believe me now? If I attack you now, can you run away? LV Hushan saw that Tianhua was seriously injured and hurriedly said, Tianhua, I advise you to surrender obediently. Otherwise, the next thunderbolt bullet will kill you. Yuan Weiqing's confidence also doubled. He took a step forward and said loudly, Tianhua, although Vice Hall Master Zhang's conditions are very high, if you don't agree, I'm afraid you'll end up in a miserable state. I advise you to hurry up and agree. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. After hearing the three's words, Tianhua gritted his teeth and sat up from the ground. Due to his heavy injuries, he couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Tianhua panted a few times before saying, Zhang Chunren, do you think that with just this thing, you can cripple my martial arts? After hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren couldn't help but frown. Tianhua, at this point, are you still not going to admit defeat? Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I won't lose. If I don't want to, with your martial arts, you definitely won't be able to make me admit defeat. Zhang Chunren sighed. Tianhua, do you still want me to attack? Chapter 785. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, do you really want me to die with you? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren's expression changed. He gritted his teeth. Tianhua, as long as you agree to my terms, you won't have to die with me. But if you don't agree, even if we die together, I won't let you go. Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information, no matter what, I can't agree to that. If you are willing to lower your conditions, we can discuss it. Impossible. Zhang Chunren laughed coldly and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing, saying loudly, Yuan Weiqing, why don't you go and take a look? What? Hearing Zhang Chunren's order, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. His voice trembled as he asked, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what did you say? You want me to go and take a look? Zhang Chunren laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, you don't dare? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, Tianhua just said that he has the ability to die with us. If I go over, what if he? Zhang Chunren frowned and laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to be afraid. You are just a small character. Do you think that Tianhua will die with you? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to reply, he continued, Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry. Even if Tianhua has the ability to take us down with him, he only has one chance. With your current status, I believe that he will definitely not perish together with you. You can rest assured. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Tianhua and sighed. Tianhua, am I right? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua laughed coldly and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, regardless of whether you are right or not, why don't you come and try yourself? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, Yi Tianhua wants you to go over? Zhang Chunren glared at Yuan Weiqing. Do you think I'll go just because Yi Tianhua tells me to? Yi Tianhua, I guessed right. You're heavily injured. Even if you take us down with you, you only have one chance. You want me to go over and take you down with me? Yi Tianhua, I'm telling you, that's impossible. I won't fall for your trick. Yi Tianhua smiled. Zhang Chunren, I don't care if you believe me or not. If you dare to come over or attack me again, don't blame me for being impolite. Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Zhang Chunren's reply and continued to speak. Zhang Chunren, I don't want to cause a fight between the two gangs, so I've been tolerating you and not being too harsh on you. If you really want to force me, then don't blame me for being merciless. Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a sneer, Yi Tianhua, if you had done this from the beginning, I wouldn't have been able to do anything to you. But now, even if you've come to your senses, I'm afraid you can't do anything, right? Zhang Chunren suddenly turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and shouted, Yuan Weiqing, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and go over. LV Hushan also hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, don't hesitate. Do you really want to anger Vice Hall Master Zhang? Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Yi Tianhua and said in a trembling voice, Yi Tianhua, I think you shouldn't force yourself. It's not good for everyone to die together. You should agree to Vice Hall Master Zhang's conditions. He will definitely let you go. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to say any more. I can't agree to Zhang Chunren's conditions. If I agree, our South County Shadow Alliance will be destroyed, so I won't agree. Yi Tianhua turned to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Zhang Chunren, could it be that your real goal is to destroy the South County Shadow Alliance? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, you're wrong. What good will it do me to destroy the South County Shadow Alliance? I just want you to agree to my conditions. If you agree, I promise to let you go. I won't go back on my word. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him, he sighed and continued. Yi Tianhua, you know that it's impossible for you to leave safely today. Why don't you agree to my conditions? As long as you let me cripple your martial arts and agree to my conditions, I promise that I won't hurt any of you. In fact, if someone wants to harm you in the future, I'll help you. Can't I do that? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed and said slowly, Zhang Chunren, I'm starting to suspect that your son's matter should be a scam, right? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren's expression changed and he said loudly, Yi Tianhua, what nonsense are you talking about? How can my son's matter be a scam? LV Hushan also hurriedly said, Yi Tianhua, don't talk nonsense. Zhang Huixing is the son of Vice Hall Master Zhang. No matter what, Vice Hall Master Zhang wouldn't use his son as a scam. Yi Tianhua, you're going too far. Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, no matter how you explain it, I still suspect this matter. Otherwise, so many things wouldn't have happened. If such a thing really happened, the 1 million gold coins I said would be enough. I believe that anyone would agree to my conditions. Yi Tianhua turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed again. Zhang Chunren, what about you? I gave you 3 million gold coins, but you refused to settle this matter. You weren't even willing to give me 5 million gold coins. And your conditions, 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information, I believe that no one would be able to offer such conditions. Although your son was killed by the snow leopard, I believe that you understand that this was just a mistake. Our South County Shadow Alliance does nothing more than sell information. Speaking of which, your son's matter has nothing to do with us. However, you just had to hold on to this point and even set out such harsh conditions. This really made people a little suspicious. Zhang Chunren, what's your purpose? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned. Then, he sneered. Yi Tianhua, you really know how to think. Let me tell you, what you're thinking is wrong. Even if you give me 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information, I'm not willing to let my son be killed. Do you understand? Yi Tianhua shook his head and sighed. Zhang Chunren, I'm already so seriously injured that I can't resist anymore. Are you still unwilling to tell me your true purpose? Zhang Chunren suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. After laughing, he said coldly, Yi Tianhua, my true purpose is to make you give me 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. Are you a little disappointed? Yi Tianhua shook his head. I'm really disappointed. Even now, you're still unwilling to tell the truth. You've really disappointed me. Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and suddenly shouted, Yuan Weiqing, since you don't want to deal with Yi Tianhua, go now and kill Hall Master Shui. Do you understand? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He didn't expect Zhang Chunren to ask him to do this again. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I think it's better to wait until we're done with Yi Tianhua before killing Hall Master Shui. Zhang Chunren shook his head and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, this is the last chance I'm giving you. If you don't do it, don't blame me for being impolite. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua's expression suddenly changed. He said in shock, Zhang Chunren, could it be that the person you really want to deal with is actually Hall Master Shui? Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued. I understand. Zhang Chunren, you want to use me to kill Hall Master Shui. Then, you can control the secret Thunder sect in the South County, right? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren's expression finally changed. He hesitated for a moment and suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, you're smart. That's right. I want to deal with Hall Master Shui, so I set up this trap and let you kill Hall Master Shui. At this point, Zhang Chunren's tone paused. He sighed and continued, but I didn't expect that at such a critical moment you still wouldn't be willing to be heavy-handed. It seems that I can only do it myself. Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and nodded. Zhang Chunren, it seems that my guess is right. I'm a tool to deal with Hall Master Shui. Zhang Chunren nodded. Yi Tianhua, it's not too late for you to understand. I just don't understand. You clearly had the chance to kill Hall Master Shui just now. Why didn't you do it? Do you think that there's still a chance to turn things around? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, to be honest, although I'm not very familiar with Hall Master Shui, I've heard of his character, so I don't believe that these things are his idea. It's precisely because of this reason that I showed mercy to him and didn't kill him. Yi Tianhua turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed again. Zhang Chunren, I never thought that you would use your son's matter to do such a thing. It's really unexpected. Zhang Chunren sneered and pointed at Shui Zhizheng in the distance. Yi Tianhua, do you think that this trash is useful as the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder sect in the South County? At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, he continued without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him. Yi Tianhua, let me tell you, if this trash wasn't the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder sect in the South County and I was the Hall Master, then I'm sure that the power of the Secret Thunder sect in the South County would at least double. However, even if I have 1,000 abilities, as long as I can't become the Hall Master, I can't do anything. Yi Tianhua, I can't just watch the Secret Thunder sect in the South County stagnate, so I can only make him disappear. I'll be the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder sect in the South County. Only in this way can the Secret Thunder sect in the South County become stronger. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, you're wrong. It's not that Hall Master Shui doesn't have the ability to expand the power of the secret Thunder sect in the South County, but he doesn't want to because he knows that if he wants to expand his power, he will have to pay a price. And this price is the brothers of the secret Thunder sect in the South County. Hall Master Shui doesn't want these brothers to suffer losses, so he didn't do that. Zhang Chunren, I think so too, so the power of the South County Shadow Alliance won't expand by much. And your idea might be able to expand the power of the secret Thunder sect in the South County, but you'll lose too many brothers. The gains won't make up for the losses. After hearing Yi Tianhua's explanation, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, you and Hall Master Shui are both useless. Although your martial arts are higher than mine, you don't have the ambition to improve. The gang will definitely not make any progress in your hand. Therefore, Yi Tianhua can only ask you to step down. Do you understand? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, even if your strength increases, any benefits will be exchanged for by the loss of your brothers. Do you think it's worth it? Zhang Chunren asked with a sneer. Why isn't it worth it? There are so many gangs who don't hesitate to lose more brothers in order to expand their territory. Only you two idiots are still here. You're really delaying things. Yi Tianhua shook his head and said with a bitter smile, Zhang Chunren, actually, if you have this idea, you can discuss it with Hall Master Shui. I believe that he's not an ungrateful person. As long as you can persuade him, won't the matter be resolved? Why do you have to go to such an extent? Zhang Chunren snorted coldly. Yi Tianhua, do you think I haven't done this before? But do you know what Hall Master Shui said? He said exactly the same thing as you. You both feel that it's not worth it? Haha, I don't understand. You can clearly increase your strength, but why don't you do it? You're still pretending to be afraid of losing brothers. It's really funny. Yi Tianhua, it's Hall Master Shui who didn't agree to my suggestion. I had no choice, so I could only do this. If you want to blame someone, blame himself. He's the one who doesn't have the ability. I can only do it for him. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. He asked with a bitter smile, Yuan Weiqing, are you willing to do Zhang Chunren's suggestion? Yuan Weiqing didn't expect Yi Tianhua to suddenly ask him. He was stunned for a moment. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. However, he was also shocked. He never expected that today's matter would develop into such a situation. He originally thought that today was just to seek justice for Vice Hall Master Shui. He never expected that Zhang Chunren would use this opportunity to deal with Hall Master Shui. This was something he never expected. Chapter 786. Zhang Chunren frowned when he saw Yuan Weiqing standing there motionless. Yuan Weiqing, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and go. Yuan Weiqing hesitated for a moment and gritted his teeth. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, can I not go? Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered and turned to look at LV Hushan. LV Hushan, if Yuan Weiqing doesn't do it, what will you do? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment and then realized something. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, I advise you to go. If you don't listen to Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, don't blame me for being impolite. Yuan Weiqing shook his head with a wry smile. LV Hushan, can I quit? I don't want to do it. LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, now that things have come to this, do you really think that you can still retreat? I advise you to obediently go so that I don't have to do anything. Yuan Weiqing's face suddenly changed. LV Hushan, do you want to attack me? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if you obey, I won't attack you. But if you don't obey, don't blame me for being impolite. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, I don't want to compete with you. Are you still unwilling to let me go? LV Hushan frowned. Yuan Weiqing, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang has given you several chances, but you didn't seize them. You can only blame yourself. Now is your only chance. If you don't seize it, you won't have another chance. Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, let me go. I really can't do it. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and turned to look at LV Hushan. He shouted, LV Hushan, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill Yuan Weiqing. Yes. LV Hushan responded and walked toward Yuan Weiqing. Yuan Weiqing, since you don't want to do it, I can only do it. Seeing LV Hushan walking over, Yuan Weiqing's face suddenly changed. He hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, don't come over. Do you really want to attack me? LV Hushan clenched his teeth. Yuan Weiqing, it's still not too late if you take action now. Hall Master Shui hasn't woken up yet. You only need to take action to solve the problem. Why are you so stubborn? LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer him. Instead, he snorted coldly and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, let's see if you want to protect yourself or Hall Master Shui. However, do you think that even if you want to protect Hall Master Shui, he will be fine? It's useless. Even if you want to protect him, I'm afraid you won't be able to do so. You'll just be sacrificing yourself. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed in his heart. He knew that what LV Hushan said was true. Even if he didn't want to kill Hall Master Shui, he definitely couldn't change the final result. Hall Master Shui would still be killed. Yuan Weiqing could also see that Yi Tianhua was seriously injured and didn't have much martial arts left. Among the people present, only Zhang Chuanren's martial arts were the highest. Under such circumstances, if anyone dared to disobey Zhang Chuanren's orders, there was only one way to go. Moreover, Yuan Weiqing also understood that the future Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region would probably be Zhang Chunren. Therefore, Hall Master Shui had to die. Looking at LV Hushan walking over, before Yuan Weiqing could say anything, Yi Tianhua suddenly said, LV Hushan, you and Yuan Weiqing are both from the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region. Are you really going to attack him? LV Hushan turned to look at Yi Tianhua and gritted his teeth. Yi Tianhua, you don't have to care about the matters of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yi Tianhua sighed. LV Hushan, why are you so stupid? Do you think that you'll be fine if you kill Yuan Weiqing now? At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he snorted coldly and continued. LV Hushan, you're wrong. I'm sure that even if you kill Yuan Weiqing and Hall Master Shui, your ending won't be any better. Do you think that Zhang Chunren will let others know after killing Hall Master Shui? He won't. For safety's sake, he will definitely kill you to keep this secret. Don't you understand? LV Hushan, if I were you, I would join forces with Yuan Weiqing now and go as far as I can. Otherwise, by the time you kill Yuan Weiqing, you will also be killed. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan was stunned. He lowered his head and thought for a moment before his expression turned ugly. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and asked in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, is what Yi Tianhua said true? Will you really get rid of me? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, it's no wonder that Yi Tianhua said you're stupid. You're really stupid. Under such circumstances, do you think I'll get rid of you? Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. LV Hushan, you won't. After I get rid of Hall Master Shui, I'll become the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region. It'll be time for me to use people. As long as you listen to me, you'll be one of us. Why would I get rid of you? LV Hushan, don't listen to Yi Tianhua's nonsense. You just have to do it, understand? Hearing Zhang Chuanren's answer, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded and asked in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, you really won't do anything to me, right? Zhang Chunren waved his hand impatiently. LV Hushan, didn't you hear what I said just now? Don't worry, you're still useful. I won't do anything to you. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused before continuing, LV Hushan, if you do your job well and cultivate martial arts in the future, maybe I'll let you be the Vice Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region. Isn't that good? Hearing this, LV Hushan was overjoyed and hurriedly nodded. Thank you, Vice Hall Master Zhang. No, it should be Hall Master Zhang. After listening to LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren nodded with satisfaction. LV Hushan, since you understand, why don't you hurry up and do it? Do you want to wait for me to say more? LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a sneer, Yuan Weiqing, did you hear that? If you kill Hall Master Xuanao, you still have a little chance. But if you don't do it, then don't blame me for being ruthless. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, can't you let me go this time for the sake of our friendship? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you only have two choices now. One is to kill Hall Master Xue, and the other is to be killed by me. As for which one you choose, it's up to you. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Tianhua suddenly said, Yuan Weiqing, do you want to agree to Zhang Chunren's words? Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua's tone paused before he continued. Yuan Weiqing, I have just said that even if you agree, I'm afraid it won't help. In the end, Zhang Chunren will definitely kill the two of you to silence you. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. Although he believed what Zhang Chunren said just now, at this moment, he seemed to believe Yi Tianhua's words more. Today's matter was only known to these few people. The more people who stayed, the greater the danger of the secret being leaked. With his martial arts, Zhang Chunren had completely gained the upper hand here. Therefore, in order to not let others know what happened here, he was very likely to do so. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, if we listen to you, will you let us go this time? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, Zhang Chunren frowned and said impatiently, Yuan Weiqing, the three of us are members of the Tanlei sect in the South County. Even if I want to kill Hall Master Xue, I won't kill all the members of the Tanlei sect in the South County. Yuan Weiqing, the Tanlei sect in the South County is a very large gang and needs a lot of people to maintain it. You and LV Hushan are the protectors of the Tanlei sect in the South County. You are very experienced in managing the gang. If I kill the two of you, where can I find experienced people to manage the Tanlei sect in the South County for me? Yuan Weiqing, just listen to me. If you perform well, I will definitely not treat you unfairly. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was finally relieved. He turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, I have decided. I will join you and listen to Deputy Hall Master Zhang's orders to kill Hall Master Xue. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan hurriedly clapped and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, look, isn't this good? As long as you are obedient, we will be on the same side. Naturally, I won't do anything to you. Don't you think so? As soon as LV Hushan finished speaking, Yi Tianhua suddenly sneered, Yuan Weiqing, do you really believe Zhang Chunren's words? Yuan Weiqing suddenly turned his head to look at Yi Tianhua and asked loudly, Yi Tianhua, since Deputy Hall Master Zhang said so, he will definitely do it. Don't talk nonsense here. I won't believe you. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Yi Tianhua sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, why don't you understand? Zhang Chunren planned today's matter. His purpose is naturally not to let others know. Think about it. If he becomes the hall master of the secret thunder sect in the South County in the future, and the two of you know about this matter, once you tell others, it will definitely not be good news for him. Maybe it will cause a dispute because of you. The gains will not make up for the losses. Therefore, it seems that only by killing the two of you can we really keep this secret. Yuan Weiqing, believe me. Even if you kill Hall Master Shui, Zhang Chunren will definitely kill you. Don't you understand? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan said loudly, Yi Tianhua, don't talk nonsense there. Deputy Hall Master Zhang will not lie to us. Hearing everyone's words, Zhang Chunren sneered, Yi Tianhua, don't talk there. No one will believe you. You're wasting your energy there. If I were you, I would have gone to the side to recuperate. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, I'll tell you clearly. If the two of you are willing to work for me, it proves that you are still useful. Since you are still useful to me, why should I get rid of you? Don't listen to Yi Tianhua's nonsense. Hurry up and do your work. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I'll do it now. After saying this, Yuan Weiqing turned to leave. Before he could take a few steps, Yi Tianhua sneered. Yuan Weiqing, logically speaking, since you don't believe me, I shouldn't try to persuade you anymore. However, Hall Master Shui and I are both victims. I can't watch you kill him. He wants to say something to you. I can tell you with certainty that if you get rid of Hall Master Shui now, the next person to be killed will definitely be you. Yuan Weiqing, if you still don't want to listen to me, then I won't persuade you anymore. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. He turned to look at Yi Tianhua and gritted his teeth. Yi Tianhua, I don't believe you? Yi Tianhua sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, don't lie to yourself. If you don't believe me, why did you stop to talk to me? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was even more shocked. He hurriedly waved his hand. Yi Tianhua, you're talking nonsense. I'm talking to you because I want to tell you that no matter what you say, I won't believe you. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, don't lie to yourself. If you don't believe me, you would have already done it. Why did you stop to talk to me? Yuan Weiqing, since you also believe me, then don't do this wrong thing. Because even if you do, you won't have a chance to live. Since that's the case, why add another bad reputation? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing finally sighed and said with a wry smile, Yi Tianhua, if you were me, what would you do? Hearing this, Yi Tianhua frowned and said with a wry smile, Yuan Weiqing, if I were you, I would definitely not listen to Zhang Chunren and be manipulated by him. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sighed again. Yi Tianhua, but if I don't do it now, LV Hushan will attack me. Do you mean that I should stand here and wait for LV Hushan to attack me? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, you're all from the secret thunder sect in the south region. Why do you have to kill each other? I think it's better for you to stop fighting. What do you think? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan was stunned. For a moment, he was speechless. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.